Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live stream. We have not done a call-in show for quite some time, so welcome, and I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas. I'm going to be sharing here on the screen the number to call in. So this is the number to call in today. If you call 361-733-3332, you'll be put on the call-in show. You'll be getting priority in terms of who comes on to ask questions. I can answer questions in the chat, but I will give priority to everyone that is in the call queue. So today is December the 26th. Today we have some very special announcements that I'll be going through and unwrapping these gifts throughout the live stream. But if you have a question, call this number right here, just on your phone. Pick up 361-733-3332. Any questions about business, marketing, hiring, anything and everything to do with your home service company, I will be able to answer those. So I'm going to leave this up for a second. We're going to answer several calls, and then I will open the first gift. There are 3 gifts that we are unwrapping today, but let's go ahead and get started, make sure this thing is actually working, and we're going to start off with a local number, 360. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. Can you hear me? Do we have
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing?
Hey, Mike, I wanted to ask you, so you said that you did the, you started, you're testing out the door hangers for the instant quote winter service door hangers. What type of response have you seen so far, just from doing it, with the franchisees or locations?
Is that for mowing, or what services are you talking about?
For winter service, the instant quote door hangers?
Yeah, so we haven't finished an entire season, so I don't want to speak on it yet. We've seen much better results when we're able to do instant pricing, drive traffic from online to the forums. So we've been testing a bunch with that, and that's something that we're going to be focusing on. The actual door hangers, it's tough to, in a door hanger, explain to someone that they actually can say, what you want to focus on is saving the money. Because if you just focus on the pain, the problem is during winter is they don't think they have a pain.
Yeah, nothing's growing.
And so it's really a matter of trying to get most of your mowing customers convert to winter services. And then if you're going to actually try to sell, people who have never done service with you before, you really got to pitch the savings. Hey, you will save $500. You will save $1,000 by simply using us bi-weekly instead of twice a year.
Okay, I got that.
Cool. Yeah, so probably by early next spring, once we've actually seen an entire season, and we're also doing a whole bunch of testing around the actual online instant pricing form, and how do we get, because bottom line, if you're doing a door hanger, the amount of people that need your services for winter service is so much lower, and so how can we use online to kind of use as a filter to get as many people to the form as possible, versus with door hangers instant pricing for mowing, everyone needs their lawn mowed. So it's way easier to do instant pricing for that because everyone has an actual pain. And so when they see the solution, it's easy for them, yes, I'll take it. Whereas with winter services, I really need to convince them that it's a cheaper option. It makes their property look better year round, etc. So, all right, cool. We had some other callers in the queue. But again, just as a reminder, welcome everyone to the Q&A call-in show. If you've never been here before, I take these calls directly from your phone. This is 361-733-3332 is the call-in number. I'll answer your questions. And throughout today, I'm going to be having some gifts to unwrap and give all of you. So let's get started. Got one here from Wally. I'm old, have 2 successful residential home service businesses, debating whether to get into lawn care as our current client demographic seems to fit well. Tons of competition in here in central New Jersey, but that does not mean there's still not opportunity for a well-oiled machine. If there is a lot of competition, it says that there is a lot of demand for the service. And so what I'm usually looking for is a growing population. I don't really look at the amount of competitors because the vast majority of them, 90% plus of them, will not have a good website. So I can kill them there. And then in terms of ranking. And then there is the other, small fraction of even the 10% that have a good website actually do professional service, show up on time, answer their phones 24/7, answer their phones at all. And so it's really a matter of, I look at the amount of competitors as there's plenty of demand. I've just got to figure out how to carve a piece of that out. Bug out termite. I'm not a lawn guy here, but learn more about marketing side of things. Very similar to pest control. Yes, absolutely. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and go to the phone. Next caller is from 985. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, this is Cody Graber with Trinity Tree LLC.
Hey, Cody, how you doing?
Good. So the question I have for Mike is, when would renting a vehicle, not leasing, when would renting a vehicle be better than purchasing a new vehicle if it's short term?
Yeah, how short term are we talking? Like a couple days or a week or two or a couple months? What are you looking at?
6 months to a year.
Yeah, like if for example, I had a contract that I knew was only going to last 6 to 12 months, I might consider renting a vehicle. I would bake it into the pricing of that contract, knowing that at the end of that 6 to 12 months, I don't need the vehicle and I don't want it sitting on the books as a fixed expense for insurance. I have to store it for after that, et cetera, or have excess capacity in the business after that contract is completed. So the only time I would usually do it short term is if I know for a fact that I am not going to need that piece of equipment in the future. Otherwise, what I would recommend is grow to capacity, get enough money in the bank account so that you can expand once you get that piece of equipment using marketing to be able to fill it up and use it consistently. You could also look at it as like instead of renting a vehicle for 12 months, which is going to cost you an arm and a leg. If you do that, if you're going to spend 12 months on renting a truck, I would also set aside just some money that, hey, I know I'm going to need X amount in marketing to basically fill this truck up after this contract to ensure that I actually fully utilize this piece of equipment. But like right now, are you looking at a contract that's going to be like a 6 to 12 month stint, Cody?
So it's not a contract that's month per month. Right now, all my work vehicles are down, and rather than spending $12,000 to fix old vehicles, just looking at something short term.
Yeah.
To get the work done, because I have bigger financial purchases that I want to finance to help production go up within the tree service.
Yeah, like if you're looking at a contract that's month to month, renting might actually make sense, because what you don't want to do is go buy or lease or get into debt for a truck and then literally 2 months into the contract they just drop you. And so renting in this case actually might make sense, especially assuming that this contract is lucrative enough to actually make sense of spending the extra, probably I would imagine probably $1,500 to $2,000 a month for renting the vehicle. Also keep in mind, there is liability associated with the fact that you're renting a vehicle, and if it gets damaged, there is liability and there's insurance issues that could potentially rise to this. And if you damage it, like your insurance alone on a rental vehicle, especially if they know you're using it for commercial, could get extremely expensive. Like you might be able to go get a truck or a some sort of a vehicle for rental, but if you tell them that you're using it for commercial and you're using it for tree service, immediately it's going to go up in terms of the liability insurance, because they know what's going on. They know you're going to be around trees and heavy equipment, etc. And so I'd be careful about this, because a lot of times if you don't disclose it and then you rent the vehicle and then it gets damaged, a tree chipper rolls into it, a tree falls on top of it, etc., you might actually be in a worse position then. So from a liability perspective, like I feel obligated to tell you to keep that in check. Next caller is from 313. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, Mike. How are you? Thank you so much for the landscape business course coming out for free tomorrow. Can't wait to watch all those videos and everything. I've been watching every video you probably ever uploaded. But I just had a few questions. So I got like a pretty extensive marketing plan coming up for the spring. I'm doing I have 10,000 flyers I want to pass out. And I was wondering how long does it usually take to pass those out? I have a electric scooter and everything. I know it sounds dumb, but I thought you were doing that too. How long can I estimate to pass all those out?
Yeah, it really depends on the neighborhood, because if you have a cookie cutter neighborhood, you could easily get 100 plus out per hour. Now, if you're not doing the electric scooter, if you're walking slower, et cetera, you might be more on that 50 to 60 per hour, and they have longer driveways, et cetera. But easily you can do over 100 per hour, especially if you're walking quickly, you're using an electric scooter, all those things add up. And ultimately, when it comes to door hangers, assuming you're canvassing, just putting them out instead of knocking on the door and actually talking to people, you can dramatically increase your results by simply increasing the speed at which you put them out. And so optimizing where you put them in your bag, how many you're holding. If you have instant pricing ones, I'm going to have 2 different prices. I'm not going to write a new one for every single job, because I can just get so much more out if they're just two prices only, like small and large. And so I would say somewhere between the realm of 50 to 150, depending on the centrality, like how localized all of the properties are, and then also just your setup in terms of speed, how you have everything packaged, etc.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And I had one more question. Like, I had like two more questions.
Go ahead.
What I feel like it'll be like about a 1 to 3% response rate. I don't know. That's what I've heard.
What? So 1 to 3%? Is that what you're kind of shooting for?
Yeah, for the response rate.
Yeah,
Or like for mowing, mainly.
Yeah, like the only time I've ever seen 1 to 3%, and like especially on the higher end of that, is in the dead heat of spring rush, like the most high demand time. If you get 1%, I'd be pretty thrilled. That means basically every hour you're getting a new lead. That's really, really, really good. So I would not expect 2 or 3% unless you are literally in the 1 to 2 weeks where the grass is just taking like on an absolute tear. Every 3 to 4 days, it probably needs cut. That's the only time I've ever seen where a 2 or 3% response rate comes up. If you can do 1%, usually the math is so on your side, because if you pay someone, let's just cut $25-$30 an hour with commissions, et cetera, and taxes to put out door hangers, you're basically getting leads for $30 to $40. And I would do that all day long. I would keep pumping money into that if you're trying to grow. But yeah, hope that answers your question.
Nice. And also just one more, how big of a service area, like, should I be shooting for? So like the city I'm in currently is like about 100,000 population, but the surrounding cities are probably like 60 to like 80. Like, how big of a service area should I focus on when I'm just starting?
Yeah, ultimately, when it comes to service area, the smaller, the better. The fastest way to grow your business in terms of top line revenue is add more services and add more service area. And so because of that, we always go after adding more services and adding more service area. We keep expanding how far we're willing to travel because it's the easiest and fastest way to grow revenue. It's also the least profitable because the further out you have to go, the more windshield time there is, the less your guys can make on pay for performance, the more gas and fuel you use, the more wear and tear in your vehicles. The list just keeps going on. Same thing with services. It's like, well, if I just add one more service, it's simple, it's easy. You know, we're already at the property. Yes, you're right. But again, that's another thing you need to train employees on. That's another SOP you've got to create. That's another thing your office staff has got to be trained on, and you create more and more bottlenecks by adding more service area and more services in the business. And so the thing I'm always thinking about is, how do I take a 1 mile radius or a 2 mile radius and just boil the ocean? Because if I can take a 1 mile radius and out of 100,000 people, like, you have plenty of opportunity to grow a big business. So the reason I say this is because, like, we built to almost $1 million in annual revenue in Blaine, Washington. You can look it up, Blaine. It's like 6,000 or 7,000 people population, but I was able to hit every single house for like $1,000 with every door direct mail. I was able to get in the local newspaper full page for like $800. And so everyone knew who I was, even though I had like 1, 2, and 3 trucks when I was first getting started. For a few $1,000s, I was just pummeling like Facebook ads all the time. And so you're able to get way better penetration. I would rather boil the puddle than trying to go after the ocean. And so even 100,000 people in my mind is too many to go after. I would be much more centralized and focused on, 2,000, maybe 3,000 homes that you really want to go after. They're your ideal customer. Because if you get inside that market and you have door hangers and you have yard signs and you're knocking on the door and you're running Facebook ads in this small area, all of a sudden they start to see you everywhere. And you actually get the benefits of brand awareness instead of just direct response marketing. Brand awareness being that they think of you when they think of your service without you having to see an ad. And it's only achieved by you constantly touching them. And the easiest way to touch someone more frequently is either A, spend way more in marketing, or B, just go after a smaller market, a smaller area. And so this is why, like in Blaine, everyone knew who I was. They thought I had like 10, 15 trucks, when in reality, it was simply a function of like, I do not market outside of this small area. Let's go to the next caller. I might have accidentally set this up where only 10 people can get in here in the call queue. So be patient in the call queue. I will get to you. Next caller is from 951. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, how's it going, brother? This is actually Joey with Bug Out Termite and Pest Control.
Hey, Joey. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've been following you for a little while, and I really appreciate all the education and stuff you put out there, man. It really helps. Going into my second year, and I am trying to 3X it from what I did this year, and there's a couple things that I know would help me that I struggle with, and reviews is one thing. Like, I got 20 this year. I wanted to get 100 like everybody else, obviously. And it's funny, is like, you get people that are like amazing customers or even return customers, and It's just one of those things. I'm horrible about it too, is actually leaving that person a review. You forget or whatever. And I'm like starting to wonder if I need to do an incentive thing for all of my reviews and how to go about doing that through Facebook, Google, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so there's a couple things you can do. One, you could do an incentive. I would be careful about saying, hey, if you give me a review, I will give you something. What I would probably recommend doing is, like, you just can't ask for a 5-star review. What you want to do is, like, if you give me a review, there's a benefit. And then their review could be a 1-star, and I still give them the benefit. I would also say what you can do is, for example, tap into something other than just an incentive. Like if you're like, hey, I'll give you a gift card or whatever, it's like most people aren't going to go out of their way for that. And usually their reviews aren't that great. What I would recommend doing, for example, is saying, hey, for every review I get, I'm going to be putting $50 towards a community outreach project. I'm going to put that money towards giving that away to the local area of overgrown lawns or a community project. Everyone that leaves a review, we're putting that money all towards that, and I'm going to match it on top of that. So $50 from you, $50 from me. You don't have to put anything in. I just need a review, and that money will go towards something good. That might work. You can do where it is a function of really just making sure from an automations perspective, you have this set up. So when a customer gets they're happy with their service, or even if they just pay, like an automatic payment to an invoice should just trigger off to them an email saying, hey, are you happy with or satisfied with the service? And what we do is we just have a picture of yes and no. They click on yes, it goes directly to Google reviews. If they click no, it goes directly to leaving us feedback on a form. Now, all of that to say, like, we're actually doing this exact same thing in Copilot, where in the Rate Us page, if they do 4 stars or less on their feedback, it just opens up a text box where they fill that in. If they click 5 stars, it immediately will just go to Google reviews. So I would just automate it, number one. And then number two is anytime you're doing a walkthrough, I would literally have, like we have it on our business cards on the back, a QR code, and I would have it on your iPad or on your phone. Just like, hey, I'm really thankful. I really appreciate. Usually this is like highest point of activation for a review is after you've completed the service and they're happy. You just finished the walkthrough. They're super excited, especially one-time projects. Even you could do this on first-time mows if that's what you're doing. You're in pest control, right, Joey?
Yes.
Yeah, so anytime there's like a pretty good transformation or you're doing a walkthrough of a property, there's been a big change, I just literally make sure it's super, like it's part of your process to ask for a review. And you could even just tie in like, hey, in order to will you actually come back to your property in 1 month? It's gonna be a free inspection, assuming that you leave us a review and tell us how we did on your service. So something you could tie the incentive also just around a follow-up service. A lot of times, like you would look at that as probably like customer service. Is like, hey, like if there's a problem a month later, I'll come back. I would tie that into the estimate or even into the walkthrough process. Like, hey, if you leave us a review, we actually come back 1 month, no matter what, just to do an inspection and ensure the quality's still high.
Yeah, I actually really like the idea you had about making it go towards something, because one issue we have is bed bug treatments for people that are low income, because it is expensive. I'm actually one of the cheaper people to do it, but it's still really expensive for people to afford that. I actually like that idea. I can try to promote that. And yeah, a lot of my customers are, return customers, and even still they forget to get on Google or leave me a review. I'll text it to them. It's in their email receipts. But I do like that idea. Maybe I can start pitching that more, that it's going to actually, it will help people, because I've been trying to figure that out as far as like, some people have like GoFundMe's and stuff for that same thing, other pest control companies. So that's a great idea. I should definitely going to attack that. And the only other quick question I was going to ask you was, what do you think about storefront locations? Like how much, is that traffic going to really bring in if I get a storefront office? Because there's a few spots here in my small town where I'm like, man, if I was there with a sign, how much more is that going to bring me in on top of, I've actually adopted your instant door hanger quote thing too. So it's going to be the first year I try those, but just wondering, what does storefront really bring in as far as like extra traffic?
Yeah, like a storefront for a home service business usually doesn't bring a lot of traffic in. What will bring the traffic in is the sign. And so what you can usually do is just negotiate with a business owner that has the property or the location you want to get a sign on their property. For example, if you went to a strip mall or a multifamily apartment complex and said, hey, I want to put a sign out next to the highway. I will do all of your pest control for free indefinitely as long as that sign is there. You'll get just as much exposure from that sign as if you would go pay $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 a month for a retail space. And trust me, your walk-in traffic from that, you would be lucky to get 1 or 2 a week. Like there's just hardly any traffic for home services when you have a physical space for services. If you're selling other products, like if you were like, hey, we're going to open up a line of where we sell traps and bait and other pest control products, that becomes a conversation of probably getting several people in their day, and then you try to upsell them from the product into the service. That could make some sense. I could get on track with that one. But in terms of actually having a storefront just for the sake of marketing, I think if you spend that $2-3 on rent, then you have triple net, then you have utilities, then you have internet, then you have the fact that you're gonna have it manned, like you're gonna have someone there. If you don't, then it's useless. So by the time you add all this up, you're literally probably talking about $5,000 to $7,000 a month in fixed expenses. And that doesn't probably include labor. Like if you have someone there all the time, you're looking at $10,000, $15,000. And so now all of a sudden it's like, well, if you spent $300-400 a day on Facebook and Google like leads or Google ads, would you get more traffic and lead flow to your website? And the answer usually is yes. Next caller is 918. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, how's it going, Mike? This is Walter from Walter's Lawn Service.
Hey, Walter, how you doing?
I had a question. I'm doing good. We went through the co-pilot where we kind of went through the whole year and 1 to 3 years. So I ended up removing some of our services like French drains and like fire pits and like we used to sub out sprinklers. But we do get a lot of, one of the things that we're not doing is fertilization weed control. We get a lot of phone calls. Even in December, we had about a couple handfuls of just fertilization weed control, but we always pass those on. Do you think it'd be a good idea to offer that now that we got rid of some of the other things that were kind of taking up a lot of my time, and it would be an easier upsell to my current customers and future customers?
Yeah, like the big question is like the issue I have with adding more services is if the demand for that service is the same as your core service. So if you're doing landscaping and lawn care and that's your core thing, by adding fertilization weed control, which I'm a fan of, the problem with it is that the demand for that service is the exact same as when everyone else is calling for mowing and other landscaping services. The only time I personally want to add any service to my business is if I am filling in the off season. So if I am making sure that like it's a demand curve that is outside of my core service, because otherwise this is what's going to happen. You're just simply going to create more excess capacity throughout 9 months out of the year because you're going to have to staff up for this extra boom of spring rush that happens already. And so you're already overstaffed, you're already over-equipped in terms of trucks and equipment for the spring rush peak. By adding another service that has that exact same demand curve, you just make it even that much more demand. And so I see most of the time when people do this, yes, it will increase revenue. Again, adding more services will always increase more revenue. And it's easy to be like, well, people are asking for it, I should offer it. It's just like sitting there free revenue. But by adding complexity to the business, you are going to have more trucks, more equipment, more insurance, higher levels of training required for your office staff, for your team out in the field, certifications, licensing, insurance, all this stuff starts to mount. And what you're doing is compounding your spring rush to where you're gonna have to buy one more truck. You're gonna have to get one more employee. And that's just gonna add to the excess capacity for 8-9 months of the year when you're not in spring rush. And so I would personally ask, like, do you think you can grow to your goal of 800,000 next year without fertilization weed control? If the answer to that is yes, I would not add it. Now, what I would probably say is if down the road you're in profit mode, and I know your situation more acutely, Walter, because of the onboarding at Copilot. So like, I would say if you hit 800,000 without it, now it becomes a matter of, okay, I'm going to go into profit mode. I'm going to raise prices on all my mowing, all my recurring services, and then I'll add the fertilization weed control and make it super profitable from day one because I don't need it to grow. I'm just going to add it as a supplementary service because I enjoy it, because customers are asking for it. And more importantly, the reason I sometimes give a green flag to this one is customers require you to do that in order to get their mowing. But I genuinely believe, like, you've grown the business so quickly, I don't think you're going to need this service to get to 800,000. And so adding it's just going to add more complexity and is ultimately a distraction from the core services.
Okay, perfect. Then I'm probably just going to try to hit my goal first and then see where I'm at and then see if that's a good option to add it in the future.
Awesome. You're the man. Take care, Walter. All right, next caller is coming in from 417. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Mike, can you hear me?
I can. How you doing?
Hey, good. This is Jesse Edwards from Springfield, Missouri.
Hey, Jesse, I saw you signed up for Blue Collar Summit. Let's go.
Yes, that's awesome. We've really turned it around.
I
So,
saw that. Good
thank
job,
you
man.
for your advice.
You crushed
Yes.
it. All
Thank
you,
you
man.
so much. Yes, my question is, we have, we bought all of our trucks have just been deals that I've found over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like, they're just getting up there in miles, and the truck market, as you know, used truck market is terrible now.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is. And I want to look at, introducing, debt, like as in truck payment.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like just like a scary thought, and I don't want my profits to go down. We're 24% profitable at the moment, and from doing like research and asking other guys, once you start getting closer to 1 million, we're right around 750. It's harder to stay profitable, but I'm trying to just get it through my mind, like, I'm going to have these payments. I'm going to have trucks. But I'm also looking at like doing the Isuzu route. So I guess my question is like, how do I fit those payments into my like, into my numbers and
Mm-hmm.
make it make sense?
So
And stay profitable.
So why not keep doing what you're doing? Because your 24% is good. Is it just a matter of like, hey, you got older trucks, you now have the money. It's like, do I go upgrade the trucks, like, or are you trying to get more trucks? Is it more trucks or upgrading the trucks? Kind of the main question.
Really upgrading them. They're, we've been salting and plowing,
Yep.
and then some of them are only two-wheel drives, and it's like,
Yeah.
It's really hard to. I mean, taking out your fleet can make a huge difference. I mean, I've thought about going your route, but it's like with where we live and the size of our account, it's really served us well to, have a 20-foot trailer with two 60-inch mowers and a 36.
Totally.
So that our routes, we can always, fit them in instead of driving to two sides of town twice.
Yep. Yeah, like ultimately what you're
setups.
going to do the math on is like, okay, 2024, looking at your P&L, like what, like, I'm not asking the question, just like I'd be looking at how much did I spend on repairing the trucks, right? Because I would imagine on your fleet of several trucks, you're probably spending $15,000 on like, okay, this motor went out, this, whatever, cylinder, it just goes on, right? So if you're paying $15,000, $20,000 a month, now it's a matter of, okay, or a year. If you're paying that, now all of a sudden it becomes where you can spend $2,000 or $3,000 a month and basically break even. The thing is, you're taking on debt, so you're adding risk to the business. And so I think at 24% profit margin at $750,000, how I'd be making sense of this is instead of trying to get to $1 million, I would personally be like, okay, I'm going to raise prices, and by raising the price, I'm going to pay for these trucks. Because if you raise prices on all of your mowing accounts by like just even 15%, you'd immediately be able to afford brand new trucks for the entire fleet on the payments. And so the leverage at $750,000 that you have with a price increase is so substantial. And so I think you're in a really good spot to raise prices. So like I saw you send the financials over the media team. They sent it over to me. And like my first inclination, was like, now it's time to raise prices. And my immediate thought was like, I knew the trucks were older, and like you will be able to afford for literally probably $4,000 a month in payments. You'd have a brand new fleet of exactly what you want. If you raise prices by 15%,
that makes a lot of sense.
If you raise prices by 15%, this is how you make sense of this. If I do this price increase, I get new trucks. All of a sudden, people want to raise prices. Like I would do that, and then it also adds a lot of value to your brand. It adds value to your existing customers, and you pitch the price increase based upon like all these additional things you're doing for the customer. And I genuinely believe less than 10% of people would leave.
Yeah, and that's why you market to fill in who leaves because you raise prices, and most of the time those people come back. And for the listeners, like who is listening, like I went from 480 to 750, and I'm doing the same amount of customers, but it's I raised, probably 20% of my customers.
Yep.
And that's really the big change. But I had one other question, if it's allowed.
Go ahead.
It's about VAs.
Mm-hmm.
I've got two,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just starting out. And it's kind of you knew I had Holly, I had my brother trying to do it. I realized over time that I probably hired I could have hired the wrong people, but I didn't have the systems in place.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question is, what I'm scared of is like being the face, and you talked about that, and it's like I've been really good about, being the one I did everything this year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, how did that transition go for you whenever you were the one on the phone, the face, you were answering everything? I guess it's creating the system,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the VA runs the system.
Yeah, like anything you can do to simplify the business is going to allow a virtual assistant or an office person to operate much easier. And so I've always thought about, in terms of creating systems, it's like before I even think about creating a system, I want to simplify it and standardize it. If I don't do that, I can't expect anyone to do the same job or even 80% of the job that I did. And so if it's like, oh man, this is going to take forever to like create a system around it, then just cut it out. Especially when we're at 750. Like if you watch my recent content, like I want to be growing around that 750 marker and then just raising prices and optimizing. I don't want to buy more trucks. I don't want to hire more people. And so I can make a lot of sense over the next 24 months in this business by getting new trucks and hiring an office person and paying them well, by simplifying the business and raising prices. So if I simplify the business, i.e. cut services out that are requiring me to be there, they're requiring a lot of hand-holding by an admin person, and you're always on the phone with these type of contracts or customers, I'm gonna get rid of them. I'm gonna raise prices to my existing customers so I can upgrade the trucks, which also reduces the amount of admin, because it's very difficult for an admin and office person to schedule and route when the trucks are constantly breaking down, they're inconsistent, or they're not the same. Like by having 5 different types of trucks, which I'm a fan of to get started and grow the business. Like just get what you can, get them used, you get out there and hustle. But as the business gets to profitability, if you can standardize the trucks and standardize the equipment, it makes it much easier to hand off to a VA. And so in my opinion, this is a matter of, okay, let's raise prices, immediately get more steady trucks, because the ones that currently are falling apart. Let's get that squared away. We can easily pay for it with just a price increase. I also think that price increase would be enough also to pay for this admin person and paying them well. Like we have at our command center over the past few years, increased base pay by more than 50%, added medical benefits, added 401k, added PTO in the past 4 to 5 years. And the quality of your candidate does go up, and the amount, how long they stay with you goes up. And so like this year will be our first year going to Spring Rush, where like 90+% of our team in the office has been here for more than a year. They're not new employees. Like I don't even think we're going to be doing new training because everyone stayed. And so there's definitely benefits of paying people more, and giving them the incentives and giving them the bonuses. And so especially when it comes to office and admin, if you have 1 or 2 people, especially if you have 1, they have so much inherent locked up knowledge of your business, it's scary. And so the only reason I would ever want to give someone the keys to my business is if I know those keys don't leave with them when they walk away. That's why I want standards, systems, procedures, and simplification. Because I know if they walk out the door, I can quickly give those keys to someone else and they can pick up where they left off. And that is I see over and over again at that $800,000 to $2 million marker, you have one all-star in the office that juggles all the balls of admin. And as soon as they leave, no systems were created. And therefore, when they leave, the business will literally cut in half. Because now everything just falls back on the owner, and they don't have the systems to give it off to someone else. It's a very dangerous thing. So there are 3 gifts up here on the screen. Number 1, number 2, and number 3. And in the spirit of the holiday season here at Christmas, we're going to be opening these up over the next little bit. But first, let's get to the callers. We will come back to these questions, or these presents, and we will open up them one at a time, and they will cost you nothing. But let's go ahead and go to the next caller, which is from 847. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, this is Pete. I have a landscaping business in northern Illinois, and we did about 550 this last year. This is my 4th year taking it like seriously, and basically I'm at the point where I'm trying to figure out like the GM role or somebody to take off like some of the tasks off my plate. I do have like a full-time admin person dealing with all like the paperwork and calls and invoices. But I'm kind of trying to figure out, how to pay them and like what some of their tasks should be, like the GM person, so I can just kind of focus on selling and growing the business.
All right. So next year, like 2025, what's your revenue target?
See, I think if we don't get this person, we'll be capped out at the same amount, like 550, 600,000, because I was working all spring rush for 7 days a week for like 3 months.
Right.
But if we do get the person, I think we can get maybe 800,000. I think.
So this is the part I want you to think about, and I'm not dissing this idea. Well, I'll come back to it. But this is what I want you to think about: is at 550 going to 800,000, that's $250,000 in additional revenue. Now, if you said basically that's going to be unlocked by having this GM. Keep in mind that GM is going to cost you, by the time you pay them like a base salary even, and a little bit of incentive and taxes, et cetera, you're looking at $75,000. And so what you want to be careful of here is you're going to pay $75,000 to unlock $250,000 worth of revenue. And so the profit of that $250,000 in revenue will likely be completely absorbed by the extra overhead of having this general manager. And so I would first off just make sure that you're aware of that. Like this is not going to be a cash flowing year if you do this strategy, because literally let's just say you're 20% profitable or 15% profitable even, all of the profit of 250 is the 75,000 you're paying this general manager. And so the reason that is because usually from 500,000 to 700,000, a business, unless it has been in profit mode and been raising prices consistently, cannot afford 2 overhead people. Because by the time you include your salary and his salary, all of a sudden we're at $150,000 in just overhead costs. And on a $600,000 business, that is 25%. And so I would be very careful with adding this person unless you have the cash reserves required to grow to the 750, but then you got to throw it into profit mode or grow to 1.5 million. Like I can just keep growing with this person. And so as long as that's like established, then I can answer the question more about like what's their role. But like based on what I said there, is there any response or like any follow up on that?
So I'm kind of confused on like, so if I understand like they're going to cost like roughly 75 grand. Mm-hmm. My kind of like main question about it would be like, what task would I have them take over from me?
Yeah.
If I was going to focus mainly on the sales aspect of it. Yep. And then like if we could like if I could just focus on sales, I don't know if I could grow it that fast, to $1.5 million,
Yeah. Totally.
But I mean, we do have the capacity for it. I think this year we were like, so we did like 550, and we took home about 100 profit after paying being the admin person. Mm-hmm. So we have that as like cash reserves. So I don't know if that would be enough to get it to go to 1.5. We do have like 4 trucks and trailers, and basically our main services are landscaping and then lawn maintenance. Cool. So I don't know.
Yeah, like a good strategy, like assuming you have that much cash on hand, that's great. I think I would probably give you the green light to stay in growth mode. I would probably say, go get that person. And then I would grow that 750 this year. But then I would probably the next year throw it into profit mode, raise my prices. The next year, maybe do 800 or 850, but be very profitable on it. And then be in a good cash position to make that next big jump, which is probably going to be hiring a full-time office person. Now, in terms of what they do, this is what I would personally do. This is what I did 7-8 years ago, is like I wrote down every single thing I do in the business: scheduling, answering the phone, answering the email, unlocking the gate in the morning, every little thing. And then I just literally put them into 3 buckets: sales, operations, admin. And so the eventual $1.5 million version of this business looks like you probably is doing sales, having an operations manager, and then having someone in the office, i.e. admin. And so I'm going to build around that. So right now, what's going to look like, if you're going to focus on sales, is everything operationally and admin is going to be handed off to this general manager, operations manager, whatever you want to call it. I'd probably call them a general manager if they're doing admin and operations, and you're doing sales. And so I would be basically everything that I put into those 2 buckets of operations and admin would be their job description. These are the tasks you do every day. These are the tasks you do every week. These are the tasks you do every month. And you would already know what those are based upon what do you currently do now for the business. And what I'd probably do is literally just have like on your notes app, as you're going throughout your day, like, oh, I just opened up the gate. That's probably going to be for the admin or operations person, depending on when they start in the morning. Okay, I locked up at the end of the day. Okay, who's the last person now? Is that the GM? Is that the admin person? Like, I would just start creating the buckets of everything you do and then putting them into those 3 different buckets, and then you realizing that the only things you're going to do as the salesperson are the things in the sales bucket. So follow-up calls, going out and visiting customers, all of those aspects of sales. Even if you wanted to throw marketing in there, you could. That's how I would kind of delineate between the roles. And then when I hire them, I would have an exact checklist of everything they're responsible for. And it wouldn't be a guessing game of like, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? It's like, these are the 3 distinctions and categories of the business: sales, operations, admin, i.e. getting the work, doing the work, and greasing the wheels for the work to get done. Next caller is coming in from 984. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike, I hope you had a fantastic Christmas with the family yesterday.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I have a question for you. I'm looking at potentially, my long-term goal is I would like to get into the pest control industry.
Okay.
I have a couple of years experience with it, but, the licensing and stuff will definitely take some time, and it's going to take a while to build up a customer base for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I currently have a lawn care business. It's just a solo operator truck, me and a couple of helpers doing about 150 or so. Mowing and weed control fertilization is super profitable. Now, when going into the winter, I've been trying the winter services and the leaf cleanups. However, I'm still losing money on that. And I was thinking about completely cutting out like the wintertime work and dropping all my expenses down to practically nothing and just focusing on working on doing like the pest control licensing stuff in the wintertime and the weed control stuff. You can do that still through the wintertime here. So I was wondering if that's a viable plan, or if I should strictly charge anything that's not mowing and weed control fertilization an hourly rate. I was just wondering what your thoughts on that would be.
Yeah, so I'm always very careful about thinking that another service is going to solve the business problems, because yes, chemical application has a higher gross profit margin. There are also there's more liability, there is a lot of competition, and there are really good marketers in that as well. And so like I just want to like, I'm not downing that. I like the pivot, if that's something you're more passionate about, if you want to be doing that a little more long term. But I would just put as a massive asterisk that thinking that you're going to switch services and going to fix all the problems, I would just be cautious over that. Even the fact that you have 150,000 in revenue, have a couple helpers, like if they're part time, you're probably making decent. If they're basically working full time, you have 3 people out in the field. That's going to be a very low margin service. You probably have a lot of room to raise prices. And so I would personally not get into the weed control fertilization game unless you have a dialed-in website, you have great marketing, because there are great marketing companies in the fertilization weed control because of the high margins and because they can afford a much higher customer acquisition cost. And so I think it's more a matter of like, what do you want from the business? If you're like, I'm just more passionate about the pest control, I'm more passionate about that sort of thing, and I want long-term that to be the business, cool, go for it. But I'd be careful about thinking that it's going to solve all the problems of the business, because there are not issues, but there are challenges with that industry as well. There's challenges with that competition base. And the people that are playing in that game are going to be much more sophisticated than Billy Bob and one helper that's doing lawns, because he doesn't even have a website. And so I would just add caution around it. But is your question mostly like, should you pivot to fertilization, or what's your kind of question, if you could summarize it?
Oh, so my question is, I'm licensed in the weed control and fertilization already.
Okay.
I've been having a lot of customers requesting that work from me, and so I got licensed, and I'm offering that now. It's really profitable and working out very well. But in the long term, I would like to bring back my structural pest control knowledge and get back into that as a completely different business. So I was thinking about using my lawn business as a bridge into the pest control industry, since I understand it's going to take a while to build up and stuff. My
question on this is my question on this is always the same. That is, if you're at $150,000 in annual revenue and you're starting to add other services that are profitable, and you're going to switch to another like structural pest control and think about doing essentially a different business or different brand or like a branch of your current company. If you deployed that energy, time, and money that you're going to spend on this new venture and you just put it into what you're currently doing, usually the returns are actually better if you just focused on the current thing. Like doing more and better instead of new usually pays off in spades. And so 150,000 in annual revenue, I don't think you've addressed your total addressable market. I don't think you've tapped out your market for those services. And if you're adding services to them that are more profitable, like the spraying or the weed control or the pest control for them, instead of going to structural pest control, I'd probably just keep doing what you're currently doing, because there's way more total addressable market than $150,000 in your market. And so this is a slippery slope, because what you can easily do, like I bet if you add structural pest control, you'd probably next year do 300 grand. Right? You do 150, you probably do like 220,000 in your current business and like 80,000 in the new thing. Because as you say, like it's going to take a little bit of time to grow. I also believe you could do 300,000 if you put all of that time and energy into the first one. And I think it'd be easier to find people, employees. Your marketing would be all on one thing. Your website would be on one thing. And so you can make it where you make the same amount of revenue, but simplified services and less services is going to eventually lead to a much more scalable business. Because I'm mostly thinking about, as you grow this business, how do you pass it along to an employee? Not pass it along in terms of ownership, but how do you train an employee? Is it easy to get a third, fourth, fifth person once they go full time? And so instead of you creating this Frankenstein of $100,000 business here and $100,000 business here and $100,000 business here, just focus on one that does 300,000 and has employees, and you can train them up easier. And so I'm not against the idea of doing structural pest control. Like, I think it's a great business. There's a lot of really good businesses. You could do concrete. You could do building decks. You could do fence staining. You could do Christmas lights. There's so many services, and almost always the grass will look greener on the other side. It's simpler. It's easier. It has better demand year round. And when you get into those markets, you start realizing, oh, like there's different margins. The customer acquisition cost is very different. And so I like the idea of a supplementary service before you do a new one. And so if you're already doing mowing, etc., I like the idea of doing like the lawn weed control or fertilizer or pest control, because it's serving your existing market. If you go to structural pest control, you have no crossover, and you do create basically two different businesses. And so that's what I would be careful of. Hopefully I didn't come across too negative, but that is the reason I almost always am pushing in that direction. Next call is coming in from 417. Whoa, we got a lot of feedback. I don't know if I'm going to, oh, there we go. Can you hear me? Okay, we got too much noise. Can you get somewhere quieter?
Hey, Mike. Adam Mitchell Lawn Landscape down here in Joplin, Missouri. I have a couple of questions in regards to growing a location to the point of handing it off to a GM.
Okay.
and then starting a new location. We are at 37% profit right now.
Let's go.
About 430,000 gross. I'm about.
Okay.
And I'm virtually like the octopus you talked about, except maybe a little more tangled up than that and everything.
Okay.
And I think that's how we were able to get to where we are now.
Right.
We have about probably $250,000 of mowing. And then we did landscaping, mostly upsells for those customers. I have 2 employees currently working full time. We're still doing leaves. And then we were between 2 and 5 employees for the year.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have a lot of systems in place.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a key employee who's moving on this next year, who is like my second me, who is helping things run.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know, at this stage, how do you get over the bridge from being mixed up in everything to having someone who can run at least the mowing side? How do you get out of the field is mostly my question. And then when from that point do you have the ability to start another location?
Yes, like a general manager is going to be what everything hinges on in terms of the profitability and success of a location. So finding them, that's a different topic. In terms of how do we actually build the business in a way where we can actually hand it off to a general manager? That's what we want to address here, because everyone wants to work on their business instead of in their business. They don't want to work in the field. And I agree. This is how you grow the business. This is how you are able to expand. This is how you're able to think of more of it as an investor in the business instead of that of an operator. I agree. That's what we should be doing. The E-Myth says it all. The thing is, most businesses don't have enough systems to allow anyone else to be successful doing what you do. And so, again, going back to like, what do you do every day? What makes the business 37% profitable is you're juggling. And so either A, we need to reduce the number of balls. We need to reduce the number of things that we have to juggle every single day, simplify the business, etc. Or we need to make sure that the next octopus that comes along, i.e. the general manager, has extremely detailed SOPs, standard operating procedures, on how to juggle all the balls. There's only two ways to make this easier. Improve the effectiveness of training the next octopus, or B, reducing the number of balls that the octopus has to balance. And so I always go to the easiest one first, which is going to be reduce the number of balls. And that's going to be simplify and standardize the business. So I'm going to look at when I get contacted from my crew throughout the day and they're in a panic and I need to jump into the business. What are those things? I guarantee you 20% of the services you offer are creating 80% of the amount of times you get dragged back into the field. And so if you're going to hand off something like mowing, usually more simplified, I'd do the same thing. Okay, on these mowing jobs, which customers do I need to get rid of? Is it the ones that are way outside my service area? Is it the ones that have a certain size property? Is it the certain one on a certain side of town? Is it the people that don't have full service? Is it the ones that don't do the weed control? They're always complaining. I'd be always thinking about what are the customers, what are the services that if I cut out that 20% would make the job way easier for someone to come in and become the octopus. And so again, if you think about yourself as the octopus, you just reduce balls or you figure out how to train the octopus better. I can do both of those by removing balls. So I do that first. Then once I say, okay, I've reduced my service count. I've reduced the amount of issues that happen throughout the day. I've reduced the number of employees that I need. I've reduced the amount of services that I offer and therefore the amount of training required to get an employee to being profitable. Once you've done that, now I start figuring out how do I standardize everything inside the business and make an SOP for a general manager. So how does an estimate get responded to? How do you answer the phone? How does an email go out? What does an estimate look like? What's the template for it? Like you just start thinking about all the things you do throughout the day. It would be super helpful for almost every one of us, every single day that you operate as an owner, to just keep track of all the things you're doing. Because the question is, how do I focus on growing the business? Is you usually let go of many of those things. Now, I don't think everyone should do that from day one. If you're doing 150, 200,000 in revenue, you are not going to start being on this delegation quest of like all the 30, 40 things you do in the business. Like, oh, I should have someone else do my marketing. I should have someone else answer the phone. I should have someone else do my email. I should have someone else open up the gate in the morning. No, you're in grind mode. You're at 150,000. It's you and one other employee. Stay there. You got to be in the business right now at that stage of business. But if you're at that 700,000, 800,000, you're starting to go from manager to architect, where you have to step away from the building and actually start to analyze it. If you're at that stage, it's now a function of what are all the things I'm doing in the business and how do I hand those things off? So if we look at 0 to 200,000 as this is labor mode, laborer, like that, your job as owner is labor. Then as we go from 200,000 to 800,000, that's the role of a manager. Now, as you get up against that 800,000, that's when I generally believe you're ready for a second location. And I generally want to make sure you're very profitable at that stage because the big overhead expense of a general manager stepping in is going to cost the business. And they're not going to be as good at balancing all the balls as you as the owner are. And so that's where the 800,000 steps into then as the role of the owner being an architect. You're doing multiple locations. You're potentially scaling up a different service. You're doing other things that are not in the business operations every single day. And so I always think about those three different characters: a laborer, a manager, and an architect. And the architect, the main job of the architect is to hand off things to a manager. And that manager will only be successful if you have simplified the business and standardized it. And the effectiveness of the labor hinges on the manager. And so it's a trickle-down effect that if you don't get that jump correct, you'll just constantly be burning through GMs over and over and over again. And it is absolutely a skill to be able to just become the architect and hand things off to a general manager. Next caller is coming in from 330. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike. This is Caden. I spoke with you through Instagram about Blue Collar Summit.
Let's go. How's it going?
Good. I just had a question mostly about Blue Collar Summit. I know that you wanted us to print out our profit and loss statement.
Yes.
I was just wondering what else we should bring with us to Summit.
Yeah, so this is a great segue. Let's go. So, by the way, if anyone signs up today, and everyone has signed up in the past, you're going to get one of these jerseys that are custom that you're going to be able to wear at Blue Collar Summit, and you're going to take it home with you. So you're going to get one of these. We got to have them sign up, though, because we got to make the order here. So you got to sign up today. It's kind of like the last notice. But in terms of what to bring, we do need a printed off version of your P&L. And so there's nothing really else you need. If you wanted to, is it Caden, right?
Yeah.
Cool, Caden. So if you wanted to bring your balance sheet, you can. But in terms of the workshop on Friday, we just need a printed off P&L. The reason is because there's not going to be any phones or laptops on the workshop for Friday. And you'll see why there. Don't stress. Everyone that says like, oh, no, don't stress. I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. But like, we're not going to allow it. It's going to be very focused. There's going to be a lot of engagement during the workshop. And I need a printed off copy of your P&L. Now, if you have a general manager, I'd make a couple copies so they can stay engaged, because the whole workshop will actually be built on top of certain elements of your P&L. So just your P&L. To answer your question, really it's just your profit and loss statement for 2024. If you can bring that, I would say if you want to be an overachiever, probably bring like 2023 so that you could kind of compare and contrast if you wanted to. And then you could bring a balance sheet. But do print those things off, and that should be all you need. Anything else on that note?
Okay, that sounds good. Also, right now we run all of our management basically through QuickBooks. Looking to switch into Copilot, would that probably be the best time to do it right now?
Yeah, like in terms of, if you're in QuickBooks now, I think QuickBooks and Copilot serve very different functions. QuickBooks is going to be fantastic for running payroll, for doing your bookkeeping, making sure you have your profit and loss statement, your financial statement, your balance sheet, all of that for taxes. Copilot is much more of a field management service and marketing engine. So like you can't send out bulk text to all of your customers from QuickBooks. You can't route and dispatch your jobs from QuickBooks. And so Copilot is usually in addition to QuickBooks, and we actually, it's coming out here pretty soon. We're doing a one-way sync now with QuickBooks. I think it's as of next week, which is much better than the two-way sync. And so it reduces any sort of error coming back from QuickBooks. All of that to say, I would highly recommend getting both, a field management software of any sort, and then QuickBooks in addition for the bookkeeping, payroll, and your taxes, making sure your balance sheet and your profit loss statement is in order. I do look at them as separate. So now, Caden brought up a very good point. That is, it is time to sign up for Blue Collar Summit, folks. Now, can you see this? 1 second. Let me be sure. All right, this is the jersey. It's super cool. Everyone that signs up today and backwards. So if you've already signed up, you're getting one of these bad boys. But you got to sign up today because we got to make the order for the rest of them. We're getting hundreds of these. But if you are coming to Blue Collar Summit, you're going to get one of these jerseys for every ticket. So go to bluecollarsummit.com and get your tickets today. That's actually one of the gifts today. So let me go ahead. Oh, I can't. We're going to open up the first two gifts below. So this gift right here and this gift right here, we're going to open up right now. So let's go ahead and open up the first gift. And the first gift is Landscape Business Course is now free. All right, so landscapebusinesscourse.com is something I've been working on for 7-8 years, and it's usually $600. It's now 100% free. So if you're looking to start your lawn care business, you're looking to grow it past $1 million, it is like the full recipe. I looked at yesterday, there's like 50 plus hours of content, and you actually get to see me kind of like morph in the way I think about business, because I have the original videos still on there, and then I added to them. And so there's a bunch of recordings from Landscape Summit, from previous years, Tommy Mello, Corey Ballard, a whole bunch of really great speakers that have been on the stage. I have those recordings in there as well. It's completely free. So that was yesterday. That was my first Christmas present that I wanted to share with everyone. It's completely free, and I hope it'll serve you well. Now, the only thing I ask is you do one of two things. One, I would love to be able to see you actually taking the course. So if you could take a picture, tag me on Instagram, I would love that. And I'll probably give more things away if I can get some feedback. So on Instagram, if you tag me, I will probably just share your post, but it helps me know that people are actually watching it. Thousands of people yesterday signed up for Landscape Business Course once it became free. Let's go. Our goal of changing the level of professionalism in the industry hinges on the education of the industry. And so in the past, I needed to charge for it because we have now a full-out media team. I think there's like 7, 8 plus people full-time, bringing on another person here in February. So like it's become a huge operation. Like the cost of the media team is over $1 million a year. And so well over that, mercy. It's like 1.5. And so by the time we have equipment and gear and we travel to do the turnarounds, like it's expensive. And so I needed to have the course revenue in the past to essentially make sure we can break even. And you can talk to the media team. Like, they know our financials. We break even every year. We just keep investing every dollar back into making better content for everyone. And so now, though, between Augusta and Copilot and lawn care web design and home service web design, I can pay for that separately, and so we don't need the revenue. And yeah, like, there's a significant, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars that, like, I'm not going to get now. I'm okay with that because there's other areas everyone supported me so much in, and like, this is my way of giving back a little bit. So the content's there for free. That's landscapebusinesscourse.com. All right, go check it out. It lays out all the different modules. There's a ton of stuff in there. It's completely free. All right, let's go on to the very next gift. And that is, we've already mentioned it. I couldn't share this one without sharing the first one. So we got Blue Collar Summit. So this is not just for green industry, because I believe there's a lot of really good crossover between industries and home services, and you can learn a lot from them. So for example, I got a roofer coming out that does like a $10 million business, and he's going to talk about yard signs and how they use it in roofing. But we can use it in lawn care and landscaping. And so John Taffer's going to be there from Bar Rescue. He's going to start off the conference with a keynote. But if you want one of these bad boy jerseys, you just got to sign up to Blue Collar Summit today, all right? We got to make a big order for the rest of everyone coming in. And so you got to sign up today. So bluecollarsummit.com. The hotel is almost full. So like, if you're watching this in a few days, it might actually be full, but there is a discounted, I think, $70, $80 off per night if you book it through bluecollarsummit.com. So I know, like, we filled our room block already, and I don't know how many more rooms there are in that room block that they give us the discount. So highly recommend you get it now. We got like 3 more weeks until conference. It will be the best conference we have ever had, and it won't even be close. I'm really looking forward to it. All right, now we got a third gift right here. Third gift. I don't even remember what it is. Let me think. Oh, yeah, the software demo. Okay, real quick. So coming out early 2025, we got a bunch of stuff coming to Copilot, and I wanted to show you one part of it, which is the estimates on the customer portal. So let me actually share my screen, and I'll show what we have had in the past with Copilot, and then I will show you what it's now going to look like early in 2025. Let me just remove this real quick. So this is a quick demo I wanted to show of some of the work that we've been doing at Copilot CRM. Now, 2024 was not fun. It was we went into bug hell. We spent the entire year rebuilding the infrastructure in the back end of Copilot. As we hit into January, you're going to start seeing some really cool stuff come out. I cannot wait. The team has been completely overhauled. There's just a phenomenal group of engineers now, and all the time and energy we spent on the back end to stabilize things will now be deployed to more front end things that people are going to see. Now, the very first thing you're going to see is this change to the customer portal, because it actually touches your customer. And when we're going through and making changes throughout the software, we aren't just thinking about, like, how do we make it look nice? We are thinking about how do we fundamentally rethink the way that this works. And this one page, like, I know what's coming, so like it's a little difficult to just share this one part, but there's so much more that's just around the corner in Q1 of 2025. And so here we go. This is coming out first thing throughout January, February in 2025. I want to show you, this is the old way that an estimate would look inside of Copilot CRM. This is the way it currently looks if you send this to a customer. It looks fine. You can request changes, accept or decline, etc. But this right here, boom, is what the new version and the completely redesigned version of the customer portal is going to look like just for estimates. That's all I'm showing right now. So if I go back to all estimates, you can see it's like a nice little rollover. I click view. There's my estimate. This is now from the customer's perspective inside of the customer portal. Now, the thing that I always wanted is that when a customer declines an estimate, I want to know why. And so in the past, you click decline, like, oh, you declined. Well, now when you click decline, it's going to ask you for the reason for declining, either pricing, scheduling or frequency of service, or other. Now, down the road, there will likely be offers tied to this, to where if they do pricing, you can immediately offer them a discount, et cetera. But for now, at least you're going to get an email notifying you why they declined the estimate. And that's super important for you to be able to, especially if you're trying to optimize for growth, reach out for a discount. Or be like, oh, you just have a problem with our scheduling being on Tuesdays? Great, we'll put you on Wednesdays. Like, that's not a big deal. Or you don't want to wait 5 weeks? Great. Maybe I'll actually charge you 10% more, but we'll rush the order and we'll get through next week. These are the type of things many times if you get a declined estimate, you don't even follow up. Like, I bet less than 3 or 4% of people, when a customer declines an estimate, follows up and asks why. And so this will do that for you. Another thing is, like, really focusing on the request changes part. right here where they can give details as to, hey, can we change this? Can we bring the budget down, etc. Just a much cleaner interface, the ability to be able to see this. And on the right-hand side, be able to tell them right up front that the credit card is required. So when they click here to pay the deposit, because in this part, the deposit is 50% down on a $500 job, they click this. Now it's a completely redesigned payment module that's going to allow them to pay with, obviously, credit card and US bank account, but also Cash App, Google Pay, WeChat, as well as we're going to be getting in Apple Pay here as well. And so just a much more streamlined, smooth, redesigned, well thought out system for collecting payment and getting that information on file to be able to charge them automatically in the future. So just, it looks better. And all I can say is this is the tip of the iceberg. I know it's kind of coming down the pipe. I've seen a lot of the designs, and it's not just redesigned. This is the first step of what you're going to see on the front end. But what we're doing as we go through each page of Copilot is rethinking what should this actually be doing? How does this make you more money? Ultimately, what makes you more money is getting deposits. It is getting credit cards on file. It is making sure that when someone declines an option, you know why, so you can follow up with them if you're in growth mode and you have enough. If you have fewer estimates, you want to be following up on every single one of those and making sure that we really emphasize request changes. So these are just very small. I know these seem minor. There's so much more coming down the pipe, but this is the first thing that's going to be coming out, and I wanted to share that with all of you today. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to jump back into some calls, but those are the 3 gifts I wanted to hand out today. This is the call-in show number right here if you have any questions. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Next caller, it looks like they're a local to me. 360, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. Oh, looks like you called already today. How's it going?
Hey, my name is Fernando. I appreciate you taking my call. I work as a mobile mechanic, so I just have a few questions. Sorry.
Go ahead.
My first question is, I currently make about $7,000 to $10,000 in revenue as a single operator. Mm-hmm. And my 2 questions are, I want to grow my business as close as I can to 100,000. So I'm thinking about renting out an office space so I can have a Google location address. So when customers search up a mechanic, I can show up on Google Maps, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And my second question would be, how can I increase my prices to be competitive, but not as expensive as shops?
Yeah, totally. So first question in terms of getting an address on Google, I do recommend doing whatever you can to get an actual address so that on the maps it shows you in your local area. Highly recommend. So I would not go spend $1,500 or $2,000 a month on rent just to get that. But if you can sublease from someone, if you can split a shop space or an office with someone to get a physical address, it does pay dividends. In terms of how do you separate yourself and a bit more price competitive, I just make it like your marketing message needs to be, I would suggest focusing on the difference between you and a shop, because like you know the benefits from a cost perspective as well as from a customer service perspective, why they would choose you over a shop. And I would just emphasize everything on that. And I would just address the pain point of like, are you tired of getting 2 to 3 times, like 200 to 300% markup on your parts? Are you tired of waiting a week or 2 weeks? Are you tired of having to tow your vehicles to the shop? Like, address those pain points is really what I would be focused on, like on your website, because that's really why someone would choose you over a local shop. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay, that makes sense. And one last question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So when it comes to the office space, I was kind of debating on getting something that's like those virtual offices. I'm not sure if you heard of them, where you just pay like $99 a month. Mm-hmm. Like something like that. Would that be more beneficial than having to spend, like you mentioned, go on 50-50 at an actual shop location?
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad thing. Most of the time you can get into a Regis or other, co-working space, get a real address and that make that your office. I've seen sometimes they get declined on Google and it takes a little more re-verification. So I've seen it work and seen it not, but it's definitely a better bet spending $100 a month than going out and spending $1,500 to get an address. Be very careful, I would say, about one thing, and that is making sure that address is in your service area. Because from a Google Maps perspective, you just won't show up if you're literally 30, 40, 50 minutes drive outside, or worse yet, a different city name or zip code. So whatever your city name or zip code is, I want that to match my address with my actual service area. Next caller is coming from 805. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good also. So I actually run a pool service company in California, and I watched your turnaround that you did with the co-crew pools over here. And I was seeing that a major problem that we have is that our prices are way too low for what we offer as far as chemicals and that stuff goes. I'm thinking about raising my prices $30 to $35, which I think is a big jump, but pretty much my question is, I'm stuck in the owner-operator mode right now, where I'm making 25% profit, but that's with me doing a lot of the work, a lot of the repairs. Do you think that price increase would allow me to hire an admin / route manager, or is $30, $35 too much of an increase and I'll end up losing way too many customers? I just kind of want to know, since you've worked with a lot of companies before and doing all this kinds of things.
Yeah. So first question is, what's your revenue in 2024?
Revenue is about 300,000.
Cool. Yeah. So you're in a tough spot. It's one of those spots where it's like you kind of need an admin, but you can't really afford it yet. Okay. And then my next question is, you said you're going to raise it by $35. What's the current price for that same treatment?
Right now we're at around 170 average.
Is that per hour or per customer per month?
That's per customer per month.
Got it. So you're basically going to try to go from
after our chemical costs, we're probably at like 20. No, we're probably like 40 an hour once we account for all our customers. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Which I think is low.
You're very low. So basically we're trying to go from 170 to 210 or so, 205. Okay. Right now, so like 2024 was 300,000. What was 2023?
2023 was about the same. So we've been condensing our service route. Okay. We've just been focusing on more local customers. So we didn't do much of growth in revenue. We just kind of streamlined and got closer to where we have all our customers very close to us.
Got it. Yeah, so the challenging part is when you're not growing revenue, what that usually means, assuming you weren't cutting out customers like that, is you don't have enough lead flow to replace customers if you lost them. That's a bit of a concern, because usually if you grew last year by like 20, 30, 40%, now all of a sudden I know even if we raised prices and lost 10, 15% of customers, we will replace them within a matter of several months. And so what I would be thinking about first and foremost is, if you just raised your prices the way you want on a portion of customers, you'll get confidence before you raise it on everyone. So because right now you don't have a huge amount of leads pouring in that will replace these the customers that will leave, like the lowest paying ones. And so my concern is that we raise the price on everyone, we lose 30% of our customers, which I actually don't think would be a bad deal, because you're going to raise prices enough, you'd make more profit if that happened. However, cutting revenue by 30% would definitely set you back right now, because you have no leads to replace the ones that are leaving. So like right now, I would actually focus first on how do I get the lead flow higher. And so like your website, I'd be dialing all that in. So that way, instead of getting, let's call it 15 leads a month, I'm getting 30, I'm getting 40. Then I have way more confidence knowing that if I lose 20 or 30 customers during the price increase, I'll be able to get them all back within a matter of like a couple weeks. And so right now, like, do you have a great website? Has that really been dialed in terms of like the online side?
Yep. I followed all your tips. So as soon as people go to the website, they have a contact request form where they can put their number, address, and which way they want us to contact us, whether it's email, text, or a phone call. So I've done all that part, and I don't think I'm too afraid of not getting enough leads, because we actually have the problem of when peak season comes for us, we're not even able to get our phone calls because we're too busy taking care of the customers, which aren't even paying enough to begin with.
Got it.
So
I would raise prices
really
then. I would raise prices then right as you're going into busy season, and you could even stagger it so your number of customers don't change. Because if you know, okay, like as soon as we hit, let's just say March, April, May, we know we're getting all these leads that we usually don't service. Well, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to raise 20% of my customers' prices every single week for 5 weeks. And by the end of those 5 weeks, you'll have a higher margin and you'll have lost your lowest margin customers, but they've been replaced as those 5 weeks went on with those incoming leads that in the past you never even could get to. And so you now take the business from 300,000 to 380,000 next year, but 80,000 of that straight profit. Because like unserviceable leads, they don't cost you anything, except especially if you're not like marketing. But what they do cost you is the extra demand that would otherwise be able to replace your lowest paying customers. And so that's why when people say like, I have so much work coming in, I just don't answer the phone, I don't get back to them. I think it's insanity, because what we should be doing is raising our prices and getting rid of customers enough to be able to take the incoming leads that are willing to pay the higher prices. So I think it's crazy when someone turns off their leads. If you turn off your leads, the business has structural problems. It has lack of systems, because ultimately, if you're raising prices and you're at capacity and you can't do any more work, you should raise prices immediately to cut customers out that are your lowest paying, massively improve your margins. Like by raising your prices, what you said, by, let's call it, it's about 22%. By raising your prices by 22%, you're going to double your profits. Double. And so literally if 30% of your customers left and you didn't replace them, you'd still be better off from a profit perspective. And so I am a huge proponent of, as you ramp up with leads, because you're at capacity. When you're at capacity, you raise prices, or you grow and expand and get more trucks and equipment. You're not growing trucks and equipment, and I know that because you're turning away the leads. And so you got to raise prices, you got to get rid of your lowest paying customers and then replace them with people who are willing to pay the price. And if you do that for 1 year, if you do that for even one season, to where now you're making 380 on the exact same customers that you had last year, same number of customers, now you have the profit margins to grow and expand. Next caller is coming in from 770. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. 770, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man, can you hear me?
I can. What's up?
How's it going, man?
Good,
hey, man, so hey, Zeus, we're over here from Atlanta, Georgia. Man, I wanted to ask you a question, Mike. So practically, I wanted to talk about lead flow. I honestly don't have a lot of leads coming in from my business, and I wanted to ask you, if we are under 200K, how much would you recommend to put into marketing? Or I know right now I don't have a website. I know that's a priority, it's top on the list, but like, what do you recommend besides like door hangers and just recommending, I guess, more word of mouth from my clients that I have right now?
Yes, there's two things I'll be doing here. Number one is I don't spend any money on marketing until I have a great website. The reason is because it's compounding effect. My customer acquisition costs can be halved or even more just by having a great website, that when customers hear about me, there's something that actually will pull in the lead. Because like if I went into the market and was like, Coca-Cola's the best, Coca-Cola's the best, and I was like, okay, cool, we now believe Coca-Cola's the best, and then I didn't tell them where to go buy Coca-Cola, and there was no store for them to go buy Coca-Cola from, it would be a useless marketing campaign. And so what I recommend is focus on the store first, like build the distribution, i.e. the website that will then take in the incoming leads. Because if you give them a door hanger, yes, they might call you, but I know that more than half of our leads come directly from our website, and they never touch our phone. They never touch other mechanisms, Facebook or exact. They come right from the website. And I also know that if you have a website and you do the door hangers, they might call you, but before they do, they'll go check out your website. And so this is why a store. Go ahead.
Do you recommend? I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you recommend using your like, if I'm under 200K, do you recommend for sure going with the? Well, honestly, I think I might be. Yeah. Oh, okay. Do you recommend going to your website, like doing your? Because I know you make. I mean, you have a company where you guys make websites for $500 a month.
Yeah, like lawn care web design and home service web design are awesome. Like I just see consistently the amount of leads that someone gets before and after. So like I don't want to downplay that. I would also say the only people we recommend use it is if they're trying to expand past 200,000. It's literally the number. I'm not making it up because of you. That is the number I tell people, and the team will tell you if you talk to them, is like if you're doing under 200,000 and that's like where you want to stay, I would just recommend optimizing your Google listing, doing upselling your customers. So like I would rather you be sending out text blasts and emails to your customers and upselling them. You're going to get better return than spending $500 a month. That being said, if you're going to spend a single dollar on marketing, I'd rather the website be done first, because it'll double or triple the impact of your marketing spend. And so unless you're trying to do over 200,000, like at least 350, 400 next year. And I think that happens by having the website because you just get way more leads. And so I don't want to sell you on it. Like, I just look at what you got there, like on our site, the our work page. But like, I just know like when we, on average, almost double within 12 months the amount of leads a company will get. And so like, if you doubled the amount of leads and you just took that cost of, let's call it $500 a month, and you were getting an extra 15, 20 leads, all of a sudden it becomes like, if you were getting leads for 15 or 20 bucks, you just do it. But we don't, because it's easier to be able to go to Google or Facebook and like, I'll give you 100, I'll give you 150. And it's insane that how much we're spending on leads, but then we won't spend the money on the website. And so I would only do it if you're going to grow and expand. So like next year, what's your kind of target? Or like, are you trying to grow the business, or like is 200,000 kind of where you want to stay?
Dude, 100%, man. Next year, like I want to go all in, man. Like I'm definitely want to go at least, my goal is to, if I can, and this is probably me limiting my beliefs, but like I want to go to the $1 million at least.
Yeah, like
eventually down the line.
Yeah,
five.
Yeah, so like I would say, sorry, I did catch up. I apologize. Sorry, I got to keep the queue open though. What I would say is, if you did door hangers and you were spending $500 on door hangers, sorry, here we go. I got you back on. Sorry for cutting you off. What I was going to say though is, if you're going to spend $500 on door hangers, and that's probably going to cover, let's just call it 3 to 4 days worth of labor plus the printing of the door hangers. And so if you did that, you would probably get, if you did really good, you'd probably get 10 to 15 leads. I happen to believe if you spent that money on a website, you would get more than 10 to 15 leads a month, and it is now passive. The part about doing door hangers, you do need to still manage that person out doing door hangers, or you're doing it yourself.
Okay. I mean, honestly, man, if I'm making more than 500 a month, and I'm using you guys, like I don't mind it. I just definitely I'm thinking more further down the line, because I definitely want to get past the this year. If it's possible, I want to get past the 250 or the 300. And right now, yeah, I just want to. I want to progressively get better, man. I don't want to. I'm tired of staying so low, I guess I would say.
Yeah. So yeah, I just say your best marketing dollars is going to be that website. There's a reason why people, retail stores have a showcase of their products, and that's what your website is. It's a place for people to validate everything that you've told them on that door hanger, everything you've told them on your truck, on your marketing, everywhere else. And so I highly recommend it. Obviously, I'm talking in my own book here. We have lawn care web design. We have home service web design. Go onto the site. You can go under our work and see the type of stuff we build. But I just know what the businesses do, and know what, like, the churn on lawn care web design and home service web design is so low because the amount of leads that they actually generate. And we track that all the time. But I am talking my own book. Next caller is coming from 417. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
This is Shannon.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, great. Wow, I watch a lot of your stuff. All right, got a question for you. I know you use gas mowers. Have you thought about using the Greenworks commercial series?
Yeah, like the bottom line is, switching from gas to electric is simply a fuel source. There are some benefits in terms of the efficiency, you save money on fuel, etc. Right now, I don't see a lot of sense for it in terms of making me more money. I can't charge the customer. Most customers are not willing to pay more for it unless they're municipal or commercial, and we don't service a lot of those customers. Or if they have restrictions around that, then they require it. But I do not yet see the benefit of switching enough for me to be able to go through the pain of the initial cost. I talked to a company recently that does the batteries, and I said, look, the way you guys market this, the positioning of the battery space is really brutal. The reason is because as an operator, the only thing I care about is making more money and saving more money. And if you don't answer that question very simply for me as to whether or not I save money or make more money, then I'm not going to buy. And so batteries, in my opinion, will not make you more money. It does save you money, though. And so one thing that I recommend to like any battery manufacturer is, like, every time you pitch the fact that your trimmer costs $600 versus the similar thing for $250 or $300 that's gas powered, you should just put right next to it how many hours of operation it requires for you to break even on this investment. Because it costs more for the batteries, but it also, you save money every single moment that you're driving the thing instead of paying for fuel and using it. So like, if I know that after 300 hours, I break even on the initial investment expense and additional cost incurred by buying batteries, I might start making a decision. But a lot of these manufacturers are still hung up, in my opinion, on like our performance is like this much better, and we get so much more volume per blah blah blah. It's great. I just want to know how long do I need to use this thing before I actually save more money than what I spend on the initial upfront cost. But what was your kind of question behind the question? Are you thinking about doing battery?
So these mowers. So we invested into this company just as an electric mowing company. Mm-hmm. And so specifically what we're looking to do, and we're trying to figure out a couple things here, is that these mowers are not the Walmart ones you go buy. You don't go buy an 80-volt battery and pop it in. No, these mowers are measured in kilowatts.
Right.
So they are they're GPS driven, they're Bluetooth, and they have Wi-Fi connection and LTE, so they're connected to cellular. They're the high-end mowers. And for the guys who are listening who don't know, the cheapest mower is $13,000. It goes all the way up to $27,000. Mm-hmm. So for the big one, it's like 60 inches. But the point of the story is, in your opinion, does it, obviously you measure cost dollars, and there is maintenance issues that you have with gas that you don't have with electric. For example, when you run mowers on hill, gas mowers, the oil runs off to the side of the mower. And I mean, in the platform, you can actually blow the mower longer versus like electric, where the power is always there, so long as it doesn't run out. You could say that, have that argument, but there's no real maintenance on it. So you don't have to worry about the same stuff. You don't have belts. You don't have all that maintenance. All it is the charge. And a lot of these come up to, like the big one goes up to 24 acres on a single charge. I don't know if you've seen these big ones. So the question comes in is there really a marketing advantage? Let's just say the mowers run exactly the same and you kind of price out. Is there a marketing advantage to electric when it comes to like HOAs and government work where you need to be more quiet, like school systems? A lot of the school systems you can't mow during school time hours because of the fact that the kids are in school, so you have to mow them after hours. Is there an advantage, and can you see an advantage into investing in just electric mowers for different types of applications?
Have you already purchased the electric mowers?
Yes.
Yeah, so like at this point, we're confirming our decision, right? So I would say if you've already purchased them, I would lean into it. I would try to market this to HOAs, commercial, municipal. I know from doing a lot of these bids, they are usually not willing to pay $1 more. So unless you can make sense of it on an operational perspective from the savings, they don't care. Like, yes, there'll be 1 out of 10 that are like, we only allow electric. As soon as they do that, they just became super price elastic because so many people don't have electric. So it's very, very uncommon for them to be like, we are willing to pay 25, 30, 40% more for someone that only uses electric. I would also say that there is still a significant amount of sound caused from these machines in terms of like the mowers, because the blades are turning. Like blowers, for example, I see a lot of benefit in terms of sound. Like when we video around electric equipment, for example, versus gas-powered equipment, we can have an interview and they're walking right next to us. Whereas a gas, it just blows everyone's eardrums out. And so I would lean this into marketing. You can definitely use this, like basically, hey, zero emissions, et cetera, et cetera. The customer's not willing to pay any more. And so you're basically making a value prop. You're not making a price competitive. And so there's a really good book called Simplify, and I forget the name of the author, but like this would be a version of, you are not simplifying from a price perspective, you are from a value perspective. So I think you could definitely market this, and you're going to create a differentiation between you and competitors. That's great. Customers aren't willing to pay for it. They just aren't. And so they want their grass shorter, they want their bushes trimmed, and when they get 2 estimates, they're going to compare based on price. Now, are there going to be the municipalities or the HOAs, et cetera, that might say, hey, we only allow electric? Yes, but they aren't willing to pay any more for it. So it still will come down to, does it make sense financially? So if you've been able to make sense of it financially over the course of a period of time, then great. But I do think you can differentiate. Like I would, if I already had bought the equipment, I would definitely use it in my marketing. I would really make a big deal of it. I would show the benefits. I'd show how much fuel is burnt on their lawn every week when another contractor comes versus ours. I would really lean into it simply because it's a differentiator. You just want to know your USP, your unique selling proposition. For some people, it's because they're young. For some people, it's because they answer their phone 24/7. For some people, it's because they have a great looking website. For some people, it's because they showed up in a decaled truck. For some people, it's because all their employees speak English. Like, figure out your USP, and if for you that is you have battery operated equipment only, that's definitely something I would lean into. Next caller is coming in from 405. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike, it's Jake. My name's Jacob. I'm coming to the Blue Collar Sober. Super excited to see you there.
Let's go.
My question for today is how to get that first employee. So I'm hitting that 10K a month mark in my mobile auto detailing business.
Okay.
I'm just wondering what's the best way to get that first employee and then start like part-time and then start moving into full-time, and how to do that and get ready for the spring rush.
Yeah, so like if you can have a backlog of work ready to go, and I would say, for example, like as you go into spring rush, like, okay, March 1st, I'm going to hire someone. They're going to probably start like March 15th. I'm going to have to train them for a week or two. But starting April 1st, I'm going to schedule my jobs as if I have that full-time person. Now, there's a little bit risky in case they don't work out, but this is also a matter of like how you make sure you're actually profitable very quickly once you get a new employee. Because like you're basically almost doubling your production. So if you don't have enough lead flow, that's like the first thing you're looking at. It sounds like to me you have that lead flow, especially during spring rush, you can step into that full-time employee. And so is your question more revolving around when to do it, or is it more about how to find, like from a ad perspective, getting employees?
It's a little bit of both. Since this is my first employee, I don't know where to find this person at and what to do there and when to get them.
Yeah, so a good hack on this one, that you obviously can use Indeed. It's going to be a little more pricey, but it's definitely like the go-to right now. You can also just do a Facebook post on your Facebook page and basically make it a job post. Right? So back in the day, Facebook actually had job postings. Now they don't. But just make the post into a job listing. Your description, your compensation, blah, blah, blah. And just have a link to your website for them to fill out a form. Or you can just do a Google form, for all I care, for them to apply. And so this works great, because then what you can do is boost the post and do it to the like 4, 5, 10 mile radius around your shop, and do it to only your demographic you want. For example, 20 to 40-year-old males. You can just target only those people around your shop. This works really good. Like if you boost that post, I'm not a huge fan of boosting posts in general, but this works. I would do that, and then I would do Indeed in terms of finding them. And then in terms of making sure that once they come on, I'd be like, how do I create systems to be able to take the 4 or 5 services that are most common, simplify them, standardize them, have a system for training, and then I'd be hiring someone 2 weeks later. They start, and 2 weeks after that, I have a full-time schedule booked out as if they're going to be working with me full-time. And I would assume they're only going to be about 75% efficient, because they're not going to be you. And I would assume that in terms of how many hours you put on their schedule.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
You got it, man.
See you.
Merry Christmas. You go. Have a good one. Next one is coming in from 207, and I can't wait to see it at Blue Collar Summit, by the way. Again, mobile detailers, everyone in home services, and blue collar services are welcome. Next caller, 207. Go ahead.
Hey, I got a question for you about pilot. Are you guys working on the intake form?
Okay, you're kind of breaking up. I'm guessing you said about the intake form. So right now we have a work request form that you can customize. And if you have your designer from your website, they could customize it and make it their own based on HTML. This is what I recommend, is use an actual form builder like Jotform or Paperform, and then just use Zapier. So that way you can completely do anything you want. Like from those forms, you can do everything. Like your design, match your website style, etc. The current work request form inside Copilot is not out of the box super customizable. It's like, here's the forms, and you put it on your website, and it's immediately working, and we'll bring those into Copilot. But with Zapier, you can just integrate like Jotform, Paperform, any other form, Google Forms. You can just do any of those, but make it very customized in terms of design inside and embedded into your website, and then it'll bring that lead over in through Copilot. I will also say that the 10 seconds you save in terms of transferring information into Copilot is not worth having a bad looking form. And so I see a lot of people using like the out-of-the-box stuff from CRMs for their forms. And I'm like, look, it does take you 10 seconds to copy and paste their info. Make the website, like optimize for the mobileness of the website, for the design of the website. And then if you have to copy and paste it, it literally takes you 10 seconds. It slows down your site sometimes. If you have a plugin from like a different CRM, it has a bunch of fields. It's hard, doesn't look good on mobile, etc. So that being said, this is definitely something on our roadmap, and our VP of product actually spent a lot of time at ActiveCampaign working on forms specifically, so that are customizable. You can make multiple work order forms, not just one. That'll be coming down the road, but for now, we do have a work request form. It's not super customizable out of the box, and that's why I recommend use any other form builder you want, even the free ones, and then integrate it over using Zapier. Next caller is coming in from 918. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Call has been forwarded to voicemail.
Uh-oh.
The person you're trying to reach is not available.
Not available. All right. Next caller is coming. Oh, did I click the wrong one? I clicked call back. Oops. Sorry. My bad. That was my bad. Okay, cool. All right. Well, if you have a question, feel free to ring in 361-733-3332. I might have just accidentally cleared out the queue by doing that. I apologize. But I appreciate you all for being here today. If there's any more calls, this is the number to call. While we're doing that, let's go ahead and quickly review the gifts that we gave out. Because if you missed it, yesterday, Landscape Business Course is now free. All right, so go to landscapebusinesscourse.com. It's completely free. I built this after getting stuck underneath a dump truck in the PTO, and for 2 weeks had to be on the mend after going to the hospital and realizing my business was built on nothing more than me working 80 to 90 hours a week. And in those 2 weeks, I used what I learned in my master's in business administration to restructure the business and create systems. All of that is shared in landscapebusinesscourse.com, and now it's completely free, so go check it out. Next caller is coming in from 316. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, go ahead. Oh, drop the call. Oh, no. You can try again if you want. All right, next caller I think is already called in for the day, but it might have another question. 417, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, it's Shannon. Got one more question for you.
Go ahead.
There was, have you got on your quarter four when their sales dropped, we had an idea to come up with picking up poop, dog poop.
Okay.
So to be specific, I want to know what you think about this. This is funny. So when the quarter sales go down on the mowing, because the grass is going dormant, coming back up, the peak season for picking up dog poop is in the winter because no one wants to go outside and pick it up because it's cold, wet, and rainy. The thing is, it's only a little bit of branding and no really heavy equipment. So the guys, you could transition in that fourth quarter to where they're, instead of picking up, instead of mowing, you can have them start picking up the dog poop. It's really not that much extra. And now you can do a dual marketing concept where you're picking up poop on one end and then mowing, and then cross-sell them into the mowing in the next season. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, so I'm a fan of it. There's definitely owners inside of Augusta Nation that are doing this and adding poop scooping into their current brand. Here's my concerns. Again, I'm not saying we shouldn't do this. I'm a fan of it. I like it because it's simple services. I will say this. The person that was going to do landscaping or mowing usually is not the same employee that wants to also pick up poop. So what it becomes is a separate business. And I've seen this when people have added this service in the past. The reason I say that is because now I have created two different businesses, and that is a level of complexity I usually don't want to do. I usually want to add upsells to my existing crew, and the only reason I want to add services, to your point, is that I have a different demand curve for that service. Now, poop, scoop, etc., does tend to kind of go up a little bit earlier of a spring rush because the snow melts. People don't want to do stuff, especially in those markets. They don't want to be picking up the poop. So great, cool. I just generally believe that if you focused on the core product and core services as much as you would making the new wraps, making a new website, making a new brand, new entity, new insurance, hiring more people that are not in the lawn care landscaping side, if you just focused on the main business, you'd probably actually make more money. So I'm not opposed to it, but I just generally know that this market is about 1/25, about 4% the size of lawn care and landscaping. Even if it doubles, it's going to be less than 10% in terms of the overall size. I also think it's getting very popular right now on social media. It will continue to be that way. It's like if you think low barrier to entry for mowing is there, it's just even lower when it comes to poop scoop. So I do think there's gonna be a lot of price competition come into the market, but I'm not opposed to it because like lawn care landscaping has a lot of price competition too. But I do believe it's such a simple service. A lot of good marketers will get into it, and it will drive the cost down. It'll drive the customer acquisition cost up. So I'm a big fan of as an upsell to existing customers. But when you start making it 2 different businesses, 2 different phone numbers, 2 different websites, you just start what if I just deployed all that energy and time into the main business and I took my main business from 600,000 to 1 million instead of just focusing on a $200,000 extra service over here. I'm not opposed to it. I like it a lot. It's simple services. I'd rather have you do that than some complex other additional service. But I do think there's gonna be price competition. I do think that it is the TAM is increasing, but still small. But I am a fan of it over a lot of other services. I just traditionally look for a demand curve that's completely inverse of my main services. So I'm going to talk a ton about this at Blue Collar Summit. So again, back to Blue Collar Summit, which by the way is our second gift of the day, is this beautiful jersey. So if you sign up to go to Blue Collar Summit today, you're going to get one of these bad boys. Everyone that signed up in the past will also get one of these bad boys. But we do need to make the order. So sign up today for Blue Collar Summit, and you'll get one of those free jerseys as part when you sign up for registration. At Blue Collar Summit, I'm going to break this down tremendously, like a ton. All the pros, all the cons. You're literally going to have all the different options of what services to add in the winter and like the pros and the cons of each. There's pros and cons for every single one. And the one I see for the poop removal is the size of the market. It is increasing, I agree, but it's still very small. The barrier to entry to start is even like significantly lower than even mowing and landscaping. And then the demand curve, although it is a little bit better in the winter, which I really, 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 really like, and this is why I'm a fan of it, it's also not directly inverse. It doesn't stop during the spring rush. It still is going to add to my spring rush demand. And for that reason, we chose Christmas lights, but I do like the service. So please don't take the negative part about I said it and twist that as a negative thing. Next caller is coming in from 781. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike, I'm a big fan of yours. I've been listening to you since you started. I've been having some problems on the part of dealing with employees.
Okay.
We're just about to close the season at around 700. And just my problem now is just how to understand employees and how to deal with them, because I'm very target focused, and that causes a lot of rift between me and the employees because I'm the bottleneck of the company.
Yep.
You know, so you have so many employees, I'm sure. How do you deal with so many people, and how do you go about that?
Yeah. So first off, I would ask is, do you have pay for performance for your crew out in the field yet or not?
No, we don't use pay for performance. We do everything by the hour. But this season, I'm looking to integrate the pay for performance since we use Copilot with you. Mm-hmm. So,
I know everyone thinks I have like this one-track mind around pay for performance, but I know it did for my business because I was in your exact shoes 7-8 years ago, running an unprofitable business, but more importantly, working 80 hours a week because I was constantly running after my crew, and I was tired of tracking their trucks, them showing up late, them doing a poor job on customers' property, and I had no money. And so P4P was born out of complete frustration around what you're feeling right now. And I just know that if this one thing was changed in your business in the next 12 months, it would completely change the way you feel about your team. Because what you said in terms of how do I manage them, and you feel like you have your target focused and they're not, it's because they're incentivized to work longer. You're incentivized that they work shorter on the jobs because you make more money per job. And so by aligning the incentive of the crew, they become target focused. Like if you want to see them also get that same hunger of making more money, give them the incentive, which is the harder you work, the more money you make. Instead of the longer you work, the more money you make. And so as much as I could talk
this year,
go ahead.
This year, in payroll, I did just under 300,000, and I believe that everybody's getting a pretty good chunk of change. There's 4 of us, 5 with me. So 300,000 between 4 guys, I think in my opinion is a good chunk of change, and but I feel like that's like I'm just having problems. Like they're like, oh, you're pretty much riding us through it. You know, and I've been just that's where I'm stuck in it. Yeah. And like I'm trying to maybe I was gonna go through that pay for performance and see where we can do better. And yeah, I'm at my wit's ends right now. You know.
I get it. No, man, I have been exactly where you're at. I know exactly the pain. And so, like, the only thing I can say is if you're at the point of at your wit's end, you just have to determine that changing to P4P will be extremely painful. It's going to require you to change the way you estimate. It's going to have to change the way you communicate with your team, etc. But it is so worth it. You will no longer have to micromanage people. And the reason that they feel like you're riding on them is because your incentives are not aligned. You want them to work faster so you make more money. They want the job to take longer so that they make more money. So like even if you pay them enough, let's just say right now you're paying them great wages, they're still going to always feel that way. And it'll always require you to be on their tail, be tracking their trucks, be checking on their jobs all the time because their incentives are not aligned. Even if you make the same amount of money on P4P versus hourly, if their incentives are not aligned with getting the job done faster and doing it at a high quality standard, that will not happen because we are incentivizing them right to work longer on the jobs. So you telling them to do otherwise, i.e. work faster, is just constant collision. And so like it will be painful to make sure everything's on budget hours. It will be painful to train your team on what P4P is. This is what will happen, in my opinion. You will probably launch this to the team. You will lose 1 to 2 employees. The amount of efficiencies gained from the other crew members will be able to get all of the work done, and you'll still pay out that $300,000 in wages, but you'll do it with 1 or 2 less employees out in the field. And that money that they otherwise would have made will go to the team members that are now working harder. And they will be able to make even more money by working faster and harder. But more importantly, it'll unlock you and your time to be able to focus on growing the business, on the sales, on the strategy, etc. At your size, that's what you should be starting to focus on. You'll only be able to do that though because now they're going to be self-regulated out in the field. They will want the customer to be happy before they leave. Because if they don't, they get a yellow slip. They will want to get out of the shop within 5 or 10 minutes because they want to make more money. They will tell you when someone's sleeping for 2 hours in the truck because it impacts their paycheck. And so as much as I've been screaming in the wilderness about P4P for years now, it's very difficult to implement for most people. But if you can get through that pain, the promised land is like 100% worth it. And people always wonder like, how do you do multiple locations? And like, I don't show up to my locations. I haven't been to my locations for months. One of my locations, I've never even showed up to the shop. But the reason I know that it works is because the crew, when they show up every morning, makes more money if they act in the best interest of the business. And so by them doing that, I can pay them substantially more. When you can give someone $1,000 bonus on a paycheck above what their base pay is, they're gonna operate within that system. And so I would do whatever it takes. Like this is the slow season. Like I would be watching P4P University and like watching the videos, like figure out how you can switch because it will be painful. I know that. You got to structurally change the way the business is operated, but it will completely revolutionize like your relationship with them and the business.
Okay. I got you. Yeah, that's where I'm going to start looking into your pay for performance and start going in there, you know, and start listening to all of that. Yeah, wow. I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you very much.
You got it.
Thank you for everything.
Absolutely.
Hey.
MikeAndes.com/P4P, everyone. It's a free course. You can also get a free month of the software, but like even though you don't use the software, it's completely free for the training. And then if you go on to p4psoftware.com, you can book a call with Lael and the support team. And like, as you're setting up your system and like, you're going to hit bumps. Like, what about the budget hours for this? What happens if, there's a crew leader? What happens if someone doesn't have a driver's license? How do I adjust their base pay? All these little things is why we don't switch to P4P. I know, because I didn't do it for years because of all the little reasons as to why I couldn't do it. What about blade sharpening? What about shop maintenance? What about if there's a really experienced person with someone that's not experienced? These things have been figured out, and it will be difficult for you to change. I can promise you that. But it'll also unlock if I'd do anything to be able to convince people that it will change your business. And so, please check it out, and I think it'll help. Next question is coming from 978. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So my name is Hector. I own a company in Massachusetts, Alvarez Landscaping. And I have a couple questions. Last year we made $550, and me and my wife are going over. I was telling her, because I've been listening to you, watching you, and I was telling her it's time for us to up on the price, you know. And my wife is scared that we're going to lose so much clients over that, you know. And so we're afraid. We're both afraid that we're going to lose clients over upping the price. And I was telling her, because I've been watching your videos and I'm doing all that. 2023, we made about 400. Okay. 2024, we're 550. You know, so I'm assuming 2025 we should be in the 600 to 700 range. So my question to you is, when should I know, or you know, I don't even know how to ask the question. When should I not be scared to up the price on my customers?
Yeah. So there's two things I'm looking for. Number one, if you watch the content, you know when to raise prices, and that's when you hit capacity. So when, like right now, could you do $700,000 without buying more trucks and equipment?
Yes, we have enough. We have 4 trucks, brand new trucks, 2023 and up. We got trailers. We got over 9 pieces of machines. We have more than enough guys and new equipment to take care on the rush. Okay.
Next question is, from a cash perspective, are things tight right now, or is it decent enough?
It's good. Last year we made 180 profit out of the 550. So you tell me, is that good or not?
Like cash on hand. Like, is there enough in the bank right now where like you're just fine getting through the off season? Your wife is comfortable with that amount in money in the bank. Like, just from a cash on hand perspective, not profit, cash on hand.
Okay. Cash on hand, no, because we put everything back in the business.
Got it.
So I told my wife we're back investing. So all the money we got, we bought new trucks, new trailers, new everything. Because I bought in the old trucks when I first started off, and they started breaking down, and I wasn't being able to service my customers. And like in the snow contract, we have like commercial buildings right now for snow that they pay monthly for our services, that we need to be there no matter what. And I couldn't afford having trucks breaking down.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways to tackle
cash in hand.
That one's tough. Okay, so there's 2 ways to do this. One is extremely conservative, and you're going to make a bunch of money. The second one is going to be aggressive. You're not going to make as much profit, but you're going to grow the business. So let's start with the aggressive one. The aggressive one is that you're going to grow to 700 plus in revenue. You're going to get to capacity, because you always raise prices at capacity. When you have as so many leads coming in, your trucks are full, you have all your equipment's being used 5 days a week, like we're hustling. At that point, you raise prices, because if you actually need customers to leave in order for you to replace them with new customers that are coming in from new leads. So the ultra growth fast, like let's go to the moon situation is next year you're all gas, no brakes, keep growing this thing. The reason I give you license to do that is because you already have the fixed expenses. You already have the trucks, you already have the equipment, and you just need the work to get to 700,000, 750,000, et cetera. The more conservative route here from a cash flow perspective and from a profitability perspective is that you actually sell 1 or 2 of the trucks. You get down to capacity so that your 3 trucks now are being used all of the time, and you can only grow to about 600,000 in revenue. Now you're going to hit capacity sooner, and by hitting capacity sooner, you can raise prices then. Now that will make you much more money profit-wise. So if you're really, really cash strapped, I would actually recommend that. And especially if your wife is very, very concerned about this is actually the move. Right now, you have probably 300,000 plus in excess capacity, meaning you could probably do $800,000 in revenue without buying more trucks and equipment. Now, that makes me scared, because it does tell me that if you raise prices and you lose customers, we even have more excess capacity. And so I always am trying to hit capacity and then raise prices. And so these are the 2 routes. I go ultra fast. I grow as much as possible because I need to grow to capacity. I'm not going to have a lot of profit next year because you're in growth mode still. And then the other option is you literally let go of 1 of your trucks. You get to where your capacity is around 600,000. You raise prices in next spring rush because you have so many leads coming in and you only have the 3 trucks. And that's going to be a much more profitable route, because you'll raise your prices by 15% and immediately draw $80,000 to the bottom line.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That helped me a lot. I really appreciate you. You're great. You're amazing. all helping us out. I'm signing up for the summit right now.
Heyo, we'll see you there, brother. Best of luck to you. I can't wait to see you and your wife. You have a good one. All
Thank
right,
you.
next caller is coming in from 316. I think we've already had this person on the show today. Welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in.
Hello, my name is Johnny. How you doing, Mike?
Good. How you doing, Johnny?
I'm all right. I'm actually owner of Lenahi Outdoor Services here in Killeen, Texas. I know 316 is the Kansas area code, but I'm actually here in a military town. And I guess my main problem is that I'm not having a lot of customers stick around due to being deployment.
Mm-hmm.
And the market that I'm in right now, I mean, you have a couple of big companies that are here that's been established for a good little while. I don't want to quote unquote use the term, step on toes as far as pricing goes and maybe taking or stealing as far as customers from other people. What's the best way to go about strategizing to bring new customers in without adding more services? Because as you stated before, more services don't equal profit. So, and I'm actually taking away a lot of services this year, including like fence repair, just big time jobs where I'm only a one-time guy as far as, a one-man band per se. My goal this year is to go 100K. So I guess my main question is, what's the best strategy? And I just posted I just bought your door hangers, your instant quote door hangers. So what's the best way for me to apply a good business strategy to bring in new leads while taking out the middleman? Because I also use Thumbtack as well.
Got it. So first off, you'd mentioned like being concerned about taking customers away from other competitors, or is that a big concern for you? Is like, because attracting new customers, you're going to get them mostly from other competitors or brand new, they've never used your service before. And so the likelihood is that 80-90% of your customers are going to come from other competitors. So is that a big concern for you though, like because of the local market?
Yes, because not really anybody here wants to pay more than $55-$65 at a max, per mow. And I just don't know prices like that. Being a one-man band, is that not only scalable, but is it profitable to keep, let's say, 30 to 60 clients, try to build them up in this coming year while trying to stay profitable by not adding as many services, if I'm asking that correctly?
Yeah. Are you wanting to scale it up, Johnny, or you just want to stay mostly by yourself solo, like in like a year or two?
Man, brother, my main thing is trying to grow to at least maybe a 2-3 truck type of crew.
Okay. Yeah, like, because ultimately you could just focus on simple couple services you want to offer. You've cut out a lot of the other ones. And yes, you might think right now the market doesn't sustain $55 or $60 or more than that per cut, for example. And I would agree with you unless you have so many customers that you need to actually get rid of some of them because more of them are coming on. And so you can fix this problem by getting more leads than you can handle. And so this is where it becomes a matter of like, if you're trying to scale to 2-3 trucks, do you have a website? Do you have a Google listing with a bunch of reviews on it? Do you rank well on Google? Because if you doubled the amount of leads you had, you'd hit capacity so fast, you'd either A, have to raise prices above $60 a cut, or you would have to go buy another truck and hire an employee and start scaling the business. There's only two ways about it.
Okay, because my base minimum now is like $55 for me to do any type of mowing. Not to mention, I'm a type of company that charges for overgrowth properties that are drastically overgrown.
Yep.
Now, initially, that's where I see most of my profit margin, taking on these big overgrown properties because of the one-time initial fee. So that gives me a lot of revenue there. But my main thing also is the thumbtack guy, the middleman. I know you're big on the middleman.
Yep.
At what stage, because I'm not a software guy, I really don't know how to build, websites and stuff like that. But Thumbtack has somewhat, quote unquote, been okay to me. As when I passed out door hangers, flyers, haven't really gotten a call back. My revenue was probably lower than a couple grand a month. Last April, this past April, I reached just under $7,000 in a month. But my payout to Thumbtack was probably maybe under or just over $1,000 of that. So I mean, I don't know if those are good numbers to keep investing in, or should I go ahead and pull off from that and stick with the door hangers, the instant quote door hangers?
Yeah, like ultimately these services like Thumbtack, these lead services are blood sucking. I won't say what. Like these guys, they kill our industry. They take all the profit out. If you just take what you just said in terms of the amount that you spent to Thumbtack versus your revenue, you're spending all of your profit. You will never be able to scale the business. And this is why solo operators get on this drug of Thumbtack and these other lead services, because they're paying 25% of their revenue is going to Thumbtack. That's all of your profit if you were to scale the business. And the only reason that solo operators and smaller businesses have to use Thumbtack is because they can afford it because they have 50 to 60% margins. But you'll never be able to scale a business where 25% of your revenue is going out the door to acquisition. And so the reason the Thumbtacks of the world suck all of the profit out is because when you do the door hangers, you don't have a website that people go to and actually see validation. And so what Thumbtack basically does is create a pseudo website for you, and then they suck all the profit out of the leads that they hand to you. And this is why, like, if you're going to do marketing, $1,000 you're spending every single month on ads, just on Thumbtack. If you spent half of that, like on a lawn care web design or any other website that looks really good, is search engine optimized, mobile friendly, you're going to get way more leads. And better yet, in 6, 12 months, you'll get more and more leads as you go up higher inside the Google rankings. But because we don't have the skill in our industry to market, this makes me super mad, sorry. Because we do not have the skill of marketing in lawn care, landscaping, and home services, this is why these blood-sucking lead generation companies are able to come extrapolate all the profits out of our industry. The two major profiteers off of our industry is equipment manufacturers and it is lead gen services, because we cannot, A, know our numbers and actually be able to talk to an accountant to know whether or not we should take Section 179s, whether or not we should actually buy more equipment, whether or not we should actually grow the business, and two, from a manufacturing perspective, we have been sold, or sorry, that was a manufacturing one, because we've been sold on this idea of Section 179 and writing things off. Absolute fallacy for most home service business owners. And then the second thing we've been sold on is the idea that you can get leads if you just put money into the machine. And so what we do is we constantly are on this rent, this drip from a lead gen services where we're paying 50, 100, 200. I've seen, like on Thumbtack, hundreds of dollars per lead. They're getting 25% of your revenue. 20% of your revenue. You'll never be able to scale that business. And so what I want to tap into is that as I scale, I have a flat fixed expense, like a website that is constantly generating me leads. As I rank well in Google, it's going to get more and more leads. The thing about Thumbtack is they're going to go run ads on your behalf, and they're the middleman to drive traffic to you. And they're not going to send it to your website. You spending money on them is not going to get you any search engine optimization or clicks to your website. They're going to keep that customer for themselves. They're then going to market to that customer in the future and promote them to your competitors so they can sell that lead again and again and again. This is where the money from home services gets sucked into. I genuinely believe if you have a website that generates leads, then you go out and spend money on marketing. And if you spend $500 on marketing and $500 on a website, you get way more leads. And in the long term, you start getting all this organic traffic to your website because you just rank well on Google for when people search in your local area. But because we give this money to Angie's, because we give this money to Facebook, because we give this money to Thumbtack and all these different services, guess what? When you search for your service in your area, they show up first. They show up high on Google because they're driving all the traffic to themselves. And then we wonder why we can't beat out Yelp and all these other different services when it comes to your search engine optimization, is because we're all paying them. We're all paying them to rank well. We're all paying them to get a bunch of clicks to their site, which drives up their domain authority. The reason Augusta Lawn Care gets a location on the top part of Google within 2 or 3 weeks is because we have domain authority. Thousands of clicks every single day. Just think about Yelp. Just think about Angie's. Just think about Thumbtack, that we are paying to go run ads for you to drive traffic to their website. That's why you can't beat them in ranking. Get fired up. All right, 417, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike. Jesse here again.
Hey, how's it going, Jesse?
Hey. Good. I hope it's okay. I'm calling in again.
Go ahead.
But my big question right now, like something I've always wanted to do, is turn Tracy, the guy that's been with me for 7 years, into a GM.
Okay.
You know, year after year, we keep talking about it, and it's like, what does that look like? And you know, from what I've heard, it's like they go from kind of a working GM to a full-time GM, probably with like 3 to 5 crews. We've got 3 crews. Maybe I'm too early on this and I need to be patient with it, but
what's your role look like
he's
once you
doing-
get a GM? Like, are you going to go to another location? Are you going to focus on sales? What's your role after?
I would love to get one location to 1.2 to 1.5, but that would take 2 or 3 more crews, but that would take Tracy getting out of the truck.
Right.
From my understanding. But it's like I just don't know what I don't know yet. I know I'm gonna get there. It's just,
I would push
I
it.
need help with that.
I would push
vision.
your revenue higher until you literally can't do all the stuff you need to get done, because right now you're gonna get an admin person. Then you got yourself as an overhead person. If you add him in, you do really need to get to 1.5 million to make sense of that structure of 3 full-time overhead people. And so I would personally say, like, I'd probably go into profit mode for 1 year, then take that money, and you've been profitable this past year. So like, you might be able to do it now, but like, it's a matter of, then you need to make that big step. You basically you need to get the trucks, you need to get the crews, the extra crews, so you can produce 1.2 to 1.5 million in revenue. And so either I would next year do like admin person and you be very profitable, 800,000, 850. Then I would then take all that cash and know I can go buy the trucks and equipment required to get to 1.5 and immediately get Tracy in as a GM and make a big jump. That's probably what I would do, because I want the cash in hand.
He's totally out of the truck.
Well, at 1.5, you're going to need, at 1.5, you're going to have an operations person. That's probably him. And then you are going to be likely the salesperson. And then your admin person is going to be full-time. And so to make that more.
That was my next question.
Yeah. Like, that's how it's usually going to look at 1.5. And I would just say, like, from a conservative perspective, I'd probably spend 1 year in profit mode at your current size with just you and an admin person. Because as soon as you add him in, you're taking one of your best people out of the field and you're making them overhead. And as soon as you do that, you've basically got to go from 800,000 to 1.5 to make any more money, like profit-wise.
Yeah. And then it's like location. So it's like next year, what I'm looking at is just stacking up cash, figuring out all the changes that I currently have made, and letting that run smooth for a year.
Yep, and then
cutting
out anything that, as from an operations perspective, is going to be difficult for him. So anytime the guys are calling you about a truck or equipment or this customer, like, I'm just trying to remove all of those variables so that when he gets in that position, he can just he's the go-to person for all operation stuff. He's the guy at the shop in the morning making sure all the trucks are good to go. He's making sure the equipment's ready to roll. He's doing customer callbacks. He's like the operations person. But to make that easier for him, have plenty of cash on hand so you can grow quickly, because your full-time job will now be sales. And then secondly, I would be simplifying that role as much as possible and reducing any of the potential landmines he might run into.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then I just focus on sales and architect.
Exactly. You got it.
Yeah. And P for P, that's the other thing. It's like, I've been talking about it for 2 or 3 years now. And it's like the one thing I realized I couldn't set it up last year. I mean, I had enough going on, but we weren't tracking our hours, our man hours. And we've done that very consistently all year. And it's really changed everything. And, we can see what's going on that way. And be able to raise prices and know how to raise prices. What other things like that would you say is super important before you just, totally switch over to P for P? Like, you have to track your man hours on every job. But I guess like another question is like, does P for P work for like snow removal and, leaf removal? Like it's totally different. Can you do P for P for just part of the year?
Yeah, you can definitely take a piece of certain services and not do P for P. Like we usually wouldn't do it for snow removal, but in my market, again, we would only plow 2 or 3 times a year. I didn't want P for P. I didn't want the guys moving fast. I just paid them exorbitant amounts of money on base pay if they didn't, and with bonuses if they didn't get damage cases. So you can take bits and pieces of it. I would say this. There are going to be 100 reasons as to why you can't do P for P. Oh, like what about leaf removal? What about this? What about that? Like there's always going to be a reason. That's why people don't pull the trigger on it. But like just do it. Like, it is so true. Like, just do it. And then deal with the consequences of, like, yes, an employee will be unhappy because you bid 20 budget hours and it took them 30. And they're like, there's no way I could have done that faster. And you're like, you're right. And the next job, you're going to do it in 10 hours and I budgeted for 30. And you're going to make a killing. And so the next thing that I would say, like, to answer your question would be, like, accurate estimating in terms of budget hours is the thing that's going to help integrate P4P better. Because if you're inaccurate on your budget hours, it messes up the guy's pay. And if you mess up the guy's pay, they don't trust the system. Next caller is coming in from 205. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hello, Mike. How you doing? This is Jose from Champions Landscaping out of Alabama here in Birmingham. I just had a question I had a couple of questions. We did 700K this year, and we're shooting for profit mode 2025 at 750. And I want to get a GM in place. Would you recommend just one GM? Do you think it's something that one GM can handle and go to 2026, get a GM in place? Would you recommend, do you think 1 million is something that a GM can handle, or do you think I need to be looking at office person and the GM?
Yeah, so if you look at sales, operations, and admin as the three functions of the business, if you're going to hand this business off and you're not going to be involved, you're going to need an admin person and a GM role at that 750,000 level. I really like that level because the GM can handle operations and sales typically. As soon as you start pushing that million marker, I consistently see you needing another person for just sales, and the operation role has to be split. So I'm a big fan of taking what you currently have, staying in profit mode, hiring a full-time office person, and then a general manager. That general manager is responsible for everything that doesn't have to do with admin. So all operations, all sales. Now, the question I always lead to, though, is, like, what's your role going to be in the business?
So I wanted to just keep it as a passive sort of income, and just keep it as passive sort of income, and want to get into real estate and other business ventures.
And so you throw this thing into profit mode, just like
yeah.
have, like, throw this thing into profit mode, raise your prices, do not buy more trucks, do not buy more equipment, keep your crew size under 8 so that general manager can actually effectively manage them. If you start needing 10, 12 people to make that 800,000, it's going to drive that GM, the level of competency for that GM has to go dramatically up because it's difficult to manage that number of people. And if someone's listening to this right now, like, well, I'm an owner and I have 15 employees. Yeah, you're the owner. Once you hand this off to a general manager, I consistently see if they have more than 8 people in the field, and there's plenty of studies to say that 6 to 8 people is how much someone can effectively manage. If you start having to need 10, 12, 15 people out in the field, the one general manager alone usually cannot handle it. And so if you're going to, try to make this passive, my current situation would be like admin person full-time, general manager over everything. I'm trying to get where no more than 8 people are needed in the field, which usually means you're gonna have to raise prices or to hit that marker. And that's usually where a $700,000 to $800,000 business is perfect, in my opinion, to make that model work. Next caller is coming in from 984. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike. So I called in earlier, but I have a new question that I just thought of.
Go ahead.
So picking back off a previous call about somebody that was having a hard time with the phone calls and such because they're busy doing the work. Somebody in this situation, because I know you're running the Max AI, can you give any statistics on what your experience with the Max AI is and how customers are reacting to it?
Yep. By the way, I'm going to drop people out of the call once they answer a question because they're piling up. So feel free to keep calling in, but I don't want people to have to wait 30 minutes plus in these call queues. So yes, in terms of if you do this, you will have 10 to 15% of people will be unhappy about it. They don't want to talk to a robot. That number will continue to go down. The same way that when you required credit cards on file, there's people that used to have a problem with it, and now it's basically standard. So that will continue to go down. If you are using something out of the box, typically it's extremely robotized. It's a long delay. It's very painful to sometimes talk to them. And so I would be careful about using something out of the box right now. I'm always monitoring what they're doing. We have full customization of the code. So we have a big leg up, but as an independent operator, you're not going to have that leverage to spend on getting your own, setup. So I would just keep watching it. I would say for now, I would really prioritize just answering the phone. And you could have it where even if you had a call service that only if you missed a call, they would pick it up, super valuable. Even if you're paying $2, $3, $4 a minute, like it's worth it because only 37% of people that when they hit voicemail are going to leave a message. That means that 63% of your leads that call you after hours or when you're busy, you're missing that customer. And yes, you can call them back. But the likelihood of them picking up is low. And so I would say before you start doing the AI stuff, it's going to be cheaper and it's going to be a better customer experience. If you're getting a few calls a day that are missed, have it forwarded to some sort of remote call service. There's Call Boss, there's Jill's office. Are they the best? No. But they're going to answer the phone 100% of the time instead of 37% of the time you getting the actual information from that customer. And so I would just that would be my general kind of overview of AI. Like I think it's going to take over the next 5 years, like until 2030, this will eventually become commonplace unless you have the money to spend a lot on customization of the model. I would just wait for the technology to get to you. And in the meantime, pay for missed calls to just be forwarded to a call service. That would be my recommendation, like bluntly. And I'll tell you when that changes and when I think some of these out of the box stuff is good enough. But if the 37% is not at least 70%, by having a robot answer the phone instead of the voicemail, it doesn't go from like 37% to say 70%. It's not worth it. And a lot of times I see these out of these box services, the amount of people that leave a information with the robot is like 40 or 45%. So it's like, yes, you're going to get leads. They would have just left a voicemail otherwise. So that's where like what we're always measuring. And until we got above 70%, we never rolled out Max AI because like there's not enough benefit to actually implementing AI if they're going to get the same amount of people leaving information as they would otherwise with just a voicemail. Next call is coming from 360. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. Oh, sorry, you've been waiting a long time. 360. You might need to.
Hello.
There you go. What's up? How's it going?
Good, Mike. Hey, Mike. So this year, my name is Hector, and this year we doubled our profit, or we made double than we made last year.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like I don't see much profit.
Yep.
So I just, I'm struggling with that and see.
So you doubled your revenue, but there's not a lot of cash in the bank.
Yeah, not that I would like to see, like, 'cause this year we made 420, and last year we made 220. So I'm just trying to figure out where I am lacking, how can I figure out like why there's not enough profit?
Yeah, so
I know for sure I'm going to raise profits for next year.
Okay.
But I just don't know if you could help me out with that.
Totally. So like first off, I would say don't beat yourself up too much. You basically doubled the size of the business. Your growth rate's like over 90%. So growth sucks cash. Anytime you're growing by more than 50% year over year, I consider you in a high growth stage. So you probably had to buy another truck. You had to buy more equipment. If you just took that cash alone out of your bank or put it back in your bank account, you'd probably be feeling okay. That's an extra 30, 40, 50 grand that's in your bank account. The thing that's really deceiving is you look at your P&L and you're like, man, I should be profitable. Your profit and loss statement does not show asset purchases. So if you bought a truck, it doesn't go in your P&L. It goes in your balance sheet. And so you look like, man, I see all this profit. I'm supposed to be profitable. It's on my profit and loss statement. Well, your truck was purchased on your balance sheet. And if you pay it with cash, there's not even interest expense coming on your P&L. So like growth sucks cash in so many different ways. That would be my first thing. The next thing I would say is like what you're determining now is like what is your pain threshold for growth versus profit? Because if you're going to keep growing super fast, next year you're going to do 800,000 revenue, you're probably not going to have a lot of cash in the bank. But if that's so painful, like not having that cash and it stresses you out, then we spend a year, we raise prices, we don't buy more trucks, and we stay in profit mode. And so it's really, this is not a matter of like, why is this happening? It's a matter of you're growing, therefore you have less cash. If we stop growing, we hit capacity and raise prices, this pain will go away. But is that pain of not growing greater than the pain of not having money in the bank? That's really only a question you can decide on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. I see. Well, I guess a lot of people have asked it this, like, when do I figure out if I should buy another truck?
Yep. So when you're at capacity, so when you're using that truck every single day, when it's filled with employees, and the only way to get more out of that truck is working on the weekend. Once you have so many customers that's happening, then you're at capacity. At capacity, you now have the determination: do I stay in growth mode and get another truck and keep getting more customers, or do I stay in profit mode? And that's going to be determined by answering the previous question, which is what's your pain tolerance and your threshold that you're willing to have in terms of risk when it comes to growing the business. Next caller is from 401. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, how's it going, Mike? Thank you so much. So I was giving a call. I know you did a whole video on this before, but so I'm going from one location where we're doing $3 million, but we do residential fencing.
Okay.
And I'm opening up 2 new locations. So I'm going to Connecticut and Massachusetts. So, and I really couldn't grasp the concept of like the accounting. Like, how should I set up the accounting? Am I overthinking it, or what would be the best bet? Because I do want the ability in the future to sell off like an individual location.
Got it. Yeah, so you're probably overthinking it. Almost everyone does. I did when I first started multiple locations. Generally, what's going to be the way I recommend is an S Corp on the top, or your holding company. Underneath that, you're going to have 3 different LLCs. So that way down the road, if you wanted to sell one of them off, you could sell one of the LLCs. So, from a financing perspective, you're still just going to file one tax return with the S Corp, but you could break those LLCs off because they have different EIN numbers down the road if you want to sell them off.
Okay, and not DBAs. So open up complete businesses as LLC. So the pushback I'm getting from people is, well, that LLC, you won't be able to get your own credit for each LLC, or will I be able to?
So 2 things. First off, the reason I stated to do the separate LLCs instead of a DBA is twofold. One, you said it could be out of state. Second is because you stated that you wanted to potentially sell them off. It's going to be easier to sell them off if they're separate entities than if they're just DBAs under one entity. The second thing is in terms of, what was that last question you said? I was going to address that last part.
Yeah, like getting their own credit card.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah. So okay.
Like
you can
generate their own credit.
Yeah. Like, are you worried about building their credit, like the business credit score, or are you worried about getting actual credit cards and opening accounts?
Yeah. So opening credit cards, because we're able to like get back 5% cash back on things like that, and do things like that.
Yeah, no, if you have a different LLC with different EIN numbers, you'll be able to open up credit cards underneath each one, have different bank accounts under each one. I would recommend keeping them all under like one bank so you can easily transfer money between the two, do journal entries of, say, your general liability, which might be over the S Corp, or admin costs that are split between the entities. But you can absolutely open up different credit cards underneath each of the LLCs. And that's why also having the different LLCs allows you to have a different EIN number and be able to open up separate checking accounts, credit cards, etc. for each location.
And you would say brand new Google My Business account. And how about, should I do brand new a Facebook page, or just base that off of the one that we have that works?
How far away are these locations, like from a driving perspective?
Yes, 50 miles.
Okay, that's not too bad. I'd probably keep it under one, do like a different like branch locations. So like home service web design, we do this quite often. And that is like have different branches underneath in different locations for a website. You could do that, and then just be cognizant of the fact that I'd probably be doing different Google listings for each, because 50 miles, I wanted to be showing up in those markets separately. But I'd probably do different Google listings, each for one quote location on my main website, but it'd be tied to one, so the domain authority within that triangulation of those 3 locations would be improved.
That makes sense. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for everything you do.
You got it, absolutely. All right, everyone, give me 10 seconds. I've got to grab my charger because we're about to die, and I'm at 2% on my laptop. So hold the phone. We're coming back. We're coming back. All right, we're almost back. Okay, all right. We're back in business. Got to get the old charger situation. We're going on almost 3 hours here. So this is, by the way, the jersey that you can get if you sign up for Blue Collar Summit today. If you've already signed up, you're going to get one of these. But we need to get how many, we need an order total. This is a large. I'm like an extra small, all right? So no judging here. Put this thing on. You're going to get this jersey. Come on over to bluecollarsummit.com. Sign up today. Let me get my charger set up here. Give me one moment. And if you haven't already heard, landscapebusinesscourse.com is 100% free. So go check it out if you're in the lawn care landscaping industry. I got something cool coming for non-green industry folks. It looks like I'm getting choppied up here. I think my camera is getting overheated. One second here. We're going to switch to, boom. Are we back in business? No, not yet. Well, what are we doing? FaceTime HD. What's going on? Oh, we lost. So yeah, add you back to the stage. What's going on, folks? Out here having trouble? Ah. Okay, I gotta reset the camera too. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna plug this thing in, see if we can't go a little further. All right, well. Oh, we're back, folks. We're back. Oh, we're back. Okay, we're back. We're back. I think maybe my computer was like literally on the verge of dying as I was plugging it in. All right, well, there's still 115 people here, so I guess I'll continue. Sorry about that. That was fiasco. Let's continue. We got more people on the call queue here. 804, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. 804, knock, knock. Can you hear me?
Hey, Mike.
How's it going?
Yeah. Hey, so I'm Joel Chavez, and I do Chavez Underground up in Greenville. And right now, what keeps me busy is spectrum work. And what I do is I trench and bore. Mm-hmm. And my question of today is, how do I find my own customers that are not with Spectrum? So how do I find businesses that need my service?
So are you mostly doing trenching right now?
Yes, trench and bore.
Got it. And so everything's basically, you're a subcontractor to Spectrum right now?
Yes, correct.
So what would be the potential customer that you could get that was not them? Is that municipalities? Is that utility companies? Who else could actually use your services?
Plumbers, electricians, any companies that put in sprinklers, landscaping companies, basically anybody that needs to put something underground is what I do full time. So I guess my point would be that leave the underground to me to keep you doing what you do best.
Totally. And so have you reached out to these other contractors in the past, like landscapers, electricians, plumbers?
Not really. I've reached out to a couple, but I started a Facebook and I have a Google listing, but and I have a simple website that I made on Canva. Mm-hmm. So but that's really it.
Yeah, what's nice is you already have current revenue from Spectrum, right? So I would just keep supplementing that until finally you're making enough to where you feel like you can jump the boat. Because obviously I know they take a big cut. You're not making as much margin as you'd like. But this is a business-to-business transaction, which means I'm trying to get with these contractors. You probably only need 10 or 12 of them to like basically get everything from them
Yeah.
heading your way. And so this is a wine and dine, belly to belly handshake type situation where you kiss babies and shake a bunch of hands. Because if you can do that, you show up on contractors' properties, you talk to plumbers. If you get a big plumbing company that has 30, 50 employees, every single day they're getting your services. And so this is one of those things where when you do B2B at this level, you literally need a couple contacts. And so instead of trying to do Facebook ads, instead of running campaigns, I'm literally going belly to belly. I'm talking to these people because 1 or 2 whales will completely keep you busy and let you change the business model. Next caller's coming from 540. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, good. What can I do for you?
Hey, I got a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
I have a gutter company.
Okay.
And we're kind of stuck at the 300,000 range right now. I'm trying to double it this year. What's your advice?
So, based upon your estimation, why is it not growing past 300,000?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of just where we're stuck at.
Okay.
Last year it was 250. This year we reached about 300,000. We're spending at about 500 a month on Google Ads. We have a company that does all that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I need to raise the prices. I'm not sure if I need to spend more in ads.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm kind of just stuck in this situation.
Got it. So whenever I look at like a growing business, there's 4 reasons why it doesn't grow. There's 4 constraints. And so I call it the 4L framework. So you either have liquidity, i.e. you don't have enough money, so you kind of are strapped on advertising. The second thing is leads. So I don't have enough leads to keep my crew busy and continue growing, expanding. The next thing is going to be labor. I can't find enough laborers to do the work. And then the 4th thing is going to be leadership. I can't get people to actually lead the team. And usually that's not really a constraint until you have 4, 5, 6 crew members. And so if based upon those 4 things, which one do you think is the constraint? Is it you don't have enough cash, liquidity, you don't have enough leads, i.e. work coming in, you can't find laborers? Like which of those kind of speak to you the most in terms of a constraint?
So, I mean, we have money.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a problem if we need to spend more on marketing. I guess, I mean, leads come in. I don't know if it's enough leads.
Right. So like right now, do you kind of generally know what your close ratio is? Like what percentage of your estimates get accepted?
Probably 40, 50%.
Okay. Yeah. So like, I don't think raising prices at that close ratio is necessarily the move now. And especially because you're not like cash strapped and like you have enough liquidity, I'm not going to go raise prices and reduce my close ratio any further. If you would have said 80 or 90%, I'm like, hey, let's raise price and make some money here.
It might be. I mean, I don't know this. Honestly, don't know this. It might be higher than that. Honestly, I feel like we get say there's 10 jobs, we probably get 6 or 7 of them. So
okay, so it might be more like 67%.
So more of a 60. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
but and it could be a lead issue as well. I mean, we might not be getting enough leads as we need to be getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like ultimately, if you are drowning in leads, it kind of solves all the problems. The reason is because if you have tons of leads and you have excess leads compared to the amount of labor that you have to perform on the work, you just go raise prices when you have cash problems. And so ultimately, like everything does boil down to a leads problem. That's why like everything beyond liquidity, because you can't go get more leads if you have no money. I shouldn't say that. It's harder to, because you have to spend time. You have to go knock on doors. You have to do things that are unscalable in order to get more leads. And so right now, your size, 300,000, I'd be thinking about 2 things. One, if you don't want to grow and you don't want to get like a bigger business, I think you could raise prices. If you went from 250 to 300,000, that's still 20% growth. I think you could basically do 320, 330,000 next year, but be more profitable by raising your prices, assuming your close ratio is 60 to 70%. But I heard anything right now from 40 to 70% close ratio. So knowing your numbers will probably be super beneficial to actually know what is the constraint. And then as I make changes in the business, I know how that constraint is affected because I'm actually measuring the inputs, which in this case is close ratio. And so I think knowing your numbers is probably the first thing I'd be doing so that as you make tweaks to the business, you can actually measure whether or not they're working. Because if I don't know my close ratio, if I don't know my customer acquisition cost, if I don't know how much I'm paying per lead on that $500 per month in Google, like, I don't know, like, you could be getting 2 leads a month and now you're paying $250 a lead. And if you're at 50% close ratio, you're paying $500 customer acquisition cost. That's not good, but we don't even know the numbers. So like knowing the numbers would be first thing. And a lot of times once you realize what the numbers are, it's actually very blatantly obvious what is the constraint of the business. Because you might be getting tons of leads, and if your close ratio is 5 or 10%, we do not have a leads problem. We have the ability to like sell the jobs. And then it's a matter of, okay, is it price? Is it I'm not getting back to the customer fast enough? Okay, can I measure these things? Like on the estimates inside Copilot, every single estimate when you're creating it, it asks when did the customer reach out initially for contact? Because we're measuring how fast we go from contact to lead. How do we go from contact to sending them the estimate? And so that's an important metric to measure, and it will impact what? Your close ratio. But we won't know that if we're not tracking it. If we're not actually knowing what our close ratio is, what our customer acquisition cost is that $500 to Google good? I don't know. Like if we know our cost per lead is $10, I'd be telling you to dump fuel on that thing. Now, if that $500 is being spent to a website that doesn't look good, I would probably say, don't spend the money on Google. Let's go spend it on the website. So that way, when we spend $500 on Google, we get 10 times the results because our website actually looks good when we drive traffic to it. The vast majority of people drive traffic to a pathetic website, and then they blame the advertising for not working. And they just say, oh, like marketing is dead, Facebook ads don't work, Google ads don't work, door hangers don't work. And in reality, you're driving them to a site that looks horrible. You're driving to a site that doesn't load on mobile devices. You're driving to a site where they have to like investigate to figure out where to submit information for a quote. Next caller is coming from 501. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. 501, welcome to the show. Hello, hello. Knock, knock. Hey.
Yes, hello.
We're there. How's it going?
Hi, so I'm Michaela Hudson. I'm a big fan of yours. I'm from Arkansas. I started my business, Hudson Lawn. I just wanted some advice on marketing.
Very cool. So right now, what are you doing for marketing, and how can I help?
Okay, so for marketing, as of right now, I've been passing out the flyers, door hangers, and my new business that's brought in some clients and stuff like that.
Okay, and how's that been working? How many customers do you have now?
So as of right now, I probably have around five
customers.
Yes, sir.
Got it. All right. And so how many door hangers and flyers have you passed out so far?
As of right now, I mean, this month I've probably passed out around 150.
Cool. So this is what I would recommend. So you have 150 you've passed out. You got 5 customers. So if we do the math on that, that's around let's just call it 3% of people that you're handing a piece of paper to, your postcard, door hanger, or flyer, are accepting your bid. So we just need to run the math. And that is, okay, well, what happens if I do 1,000? Well, that means I'm going to get 30 customers. And the thing that I'd be leaning to if I was you is that you're young. The reason you have a 3% response rate, which is like unheard of when you're passing out flyers and door hangers, is because you are young. Use what you got. And so when I was 15, 16, 13, 12, 11, I leaned into the fact that I was saving for college. And everyone's going to say yes to that. Like my little nephew the other day was selling cookies door to door and sold like literally 90% of people on $5 cookies. Insane. But it's because he's cute and he's small. He didn't be like, these are the best cookies in the world. He just said, I'm 5, I'm saving up for a scooter. Can you buy these cookies? And so lean into what is your unique selling proposition at your age. That's why you have a 3%. And instead of shying away from and trying to pretend like you're something that you're not, just lean into it. Say exactly what you're using the money for, why you're in the lawn care industry. That it sounds like you're already doing that in your flyer because you're getting a 3% response rate. So keep doing it. Just run the math and just realize that 3% is fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. Just do more of it. Next caller is coming in from 647. Welcome to the show. Canada, welcome.
Hey, Mike. It's Mike calling. How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I just had a few questions. I wanted to get your views on contractors.
Okay.
We're currently having a situation with parking, and I wanted to know, should we be getting a contractor to take on the rest of our contracts for residential mowing, he's a really close friend of mine, and he has his own equipment.
So basically subbing out the mowing, is that what you're kind of questioning?
Yeah, that's right.
And so what percentage of revenue are you going to get for maintaining the contract?
30%.
Okay. And then do you have full-time admin people that are going to be servicing this, or is he 100% going to be the contact person?
He's going to be 100%.
Got it. And so what value do you offer? Is it just mostly the fact that you have the list and it's like, hey, go do these? Is he getting actively new customers on an ongoing basis in addition to your work?
Yeah, that's right. He's a close friend of mine. We're planning on partnering up for the year after this one.
Okay.
But right now, we just want to focus on getting more cash.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm currently in a parking situation, so I do have 2 trucks,
mm-hmm.
and I don't have space for a third, which is why I want to bring him on.
Okay. Like that is a solvable problem. The parking. Is it not worth finding another spot to park the trucks?
We could do that, but I wanted to know if it's like a good idea to bring on the contractor, like just to have him on the side if we ever get overloaded with the work sort of thing.
Yeah.
Or should I not do that and just fill to capacity and raise prices?
Yeah, like obviously it sounds like you know this person, you trust them, but typically I'm not going to give the reins over fully to a contractor when it comes to servicing the customer, because eventually they'll walk away at the customer. Like eventually they will. Like whether it be upsells, like I lose all value of that contact as soon as I give 100% control to another contractor. And so I'm generally not going to do that. It sounds like you trust them. That's great. It's just a matter of I just never seen that work out in the long term. Either your relationship will get impacted or the business will get impacted. And usually it's in a negative way. I would try to figure out, okay, if I'm going to release 70% of my revenue, is it worth just going out and spending $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever I need to go get another shop space so I can get a third truck? Next call is coming from 717. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing well. I'll be excited to see you at the Blue Collar Summit.
Let's go.
Hey, my question is for like recurring maintenance, like mulching, shrub trimming, spring cleanup, fall cleanup. Most of our stuff is recurring, and most of our jobs are the same customers year after year. And I'm questioning on how to raise prices and how to do P for P when we've been working with the same customers for such a long time. And when we go there, it's never the same thing twice. You know, they'll go there and they'll ask us to do, you know, a spring cleanup, and they'll ask us to plant a plant for them and to do, you know, kind of odds and ends things. It's never just, you know, straight cut and dry, like go and mulch the property. There's always kind of more to it. Each time it's a little bit different.
So these commercial jobs or these residential, like 12-month year-round contracts?
Residential, and we don't do any contracts for the customers. Like we don't give them new pricing, you know, unless we like raise prices, but we don't give them new prices every year. You know, there's not like, we don't give them, you know, your mulch price is going to be, you know, any more or any less each from year to year.
Got it. So right now when they ask, hey, I want mulch installed, it's not part of the like there's no contract. So like there's like, I want mulch installed. Are you giving them a bid? How does that work?
No, they just tell us to come do it.
Okay, and then they, when you give them an invoice, is that based upon the number of hours you spent and the amount of material you installed?
Correct.
And is that being shown to them, like how many hours were spent and how much mulch was installed?
No.
So you're basically, like, from their perspective, you just do the work and you charge them whatever. Like they don't see how much mulch or how many hours were installed.
Correct. Yeah, like I don't charge them 16 hours at $80 an hour, anything like that. No, I just send them the invoice with whatever. You know, I don't put the hours on there.
Okay. So could you not raise the prices? Are you trying to raise prices or implement P for P? What's the here?
Both essentially.
Okay. Yeah. So like I would just say that first off, raising prices is easy because you're actually not showing them a bid. You're just going to, all of a sudden it's going to be 10 to 15% more expensive. And if it's always been fluctuating from year to year anyways, it's probably been fluctuating 10 to 15% anyways. So they probably won't even question it in terms of raising prices. In terms of P for P, we need to create some sort of system around creating a budgeted hours for these jobs. And so if they just tell you, hey, come install it, you kind of know how long that job should take, because otherwise, if it's like 100 budget hours versus a 5 budget hours, it'd be very hard to do your scheduling. And so I'm assuming you kind of have a rough estimate of how long the job should take. And even if you just use that as a metric to determine your labor rate, like when you charge the customer, are you on your end taking how long the job took and multiplying it by a certain amount of hours? Like that's how you're charging them?
Yes, that's how I'm charging them. Yeah. Yeah. So like if my guys were there for a day, it's 8 hours, times however many guys, times, $85 an hour.
Got it. So I would keep that. I would actually implement P4P first. What I would probably do is, instead of even thinking about raising prices, which I think could be relatively easy, I would probably just make it where you still charge them the 8 hours. You know what that price is. You're charging the customer for the full day. And then on the back end to your crew, you say, hey, this is the number of hours. There's 24 budget hours on this project. You're getting paid based on P4P. If they get done in 5 or 6 now, they're incentivized to do so. You still charge the customer the same amount.
Okay. So try to use,
because the customer doesn't see the budget hours. The customer doesn't. They're paying right now for just simply the work to get done, and that's perfect. Because if you would have said, "Hey, we show how many hours are on the job and how long the crew is there," then we can't do P4P. But if they're just getting a bill, I can give them the same quote unquote price as last year, knowing now I can be 20-30% more efficient with P4P. But we do just have to implement a budget hour system for our crew.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because almost all of our work is just recurring to the same customers over and over again, which is great because we can. But I'm trying to implement P4P so I can pay the guys better. But it's really hard whenever one year you go and they want you to just edge and mulch, and the next year they want you to edge and mulch, and then while you're there, do 4 other things. And we're adding those into the Does that make sense? Like in how it makes it hard to
So basically,
budget?
Yeah, totally. So like you're basically clocking the time. Let me think for a second. Yeah, that's tough because with P4P, you want to have a benchmark that the guys can beat. So what you could also do is standardize your pricing. So it's like, hey, per yard of mulch, we give 1 budgeted hour, for example. And so if there's 20 yards of mulch, they know there's 20 budgeted hours. If they beat that, great. The customer's still going to pay the same amount as last year, but they have something to beat. The challenging part is that it sounds to me like they show up and literally could be told 100 things to do and then just gets tacked on. Then you'd have to have standardized pricing around, okay, if you tack on X, then you get X amount added to your invoice, and X amount of budget hours are allocated to the crew. So any time where it's basically you've been billing based upon this time spent on the job, it's very difficult to institute P4P because the crew is not used of trying to beat budget. Like they'd have no budget hours to beat, right?
Right. There's no number for them to go off of to move forward.
Yeah, I'd almost be trying, like, this is difficult, but I would be trying to convince my customers to be able to tell me what they need prior to getting to the job. So I'd be doing like a form the week before, for example. I'm just making this up. Like, you know way more than me how your business model works. But like, I would probably be trying to figure out how do I get some sort of information about what needs to be done on the property prior. Whether that be sending an estimator or them filling out a form or a questionnaire or something, so then I can then create a schedule that is actually accurate. Because the way you're describing it, this is hell for scheduling, hell for a dispatcher. Because,
it is.
Yeah. So like I'd be trying to create a system where I know what work orders are coming in. And so it's like, hey, your upcoming service is this Thursday. Here's the service we offered last year. Check the ones you'd like this year. They would then check the ones they want. You then know the budget hours. You can then set up your schedule, your jobs. But like the idea that you're going to show up on a job and it could take anywhere from 5 hours to 50 hours based on what they ask you is absolutely unscalable, because a dispatcher has to be basically Superman to make sure that you're not going to overtime, the crews don't get overworked. Like it's almost impossible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if I was you, I'd probably do this 3 steps. I'd first off try to figure out a way, and I know like there's so many like other questions that'll stem off this, but like first off, I'd be trying to figure out a way, how can I get a work order from customers prior to showing up at their property? That'd be like the first thing. Then secondly, I'd be trying to figure out how do I have budget hours assigned to each of those services so that when the crew goes there, they have the budget hours, they get the work done, and I can pay them based upon performance. Then the third thing I would be thinking about is like raising the prices, because that's actually a really easy fix. You could honestly just do it now, because the way that you do your pricing, like you could probably just actually bake that in right off the get. But I would definitely be thinking about, before I even do budget hours and P4P, I'd be thinking, how can I get work orders? Because even if you didn't do P4P, I'd recommend the same thing from a scheduling perspective. Like, I can only imagine, whether it be your office manager or yourself, like you guys must be super men and women to actually pull that off from a scheduling perspective.
Yeah, it's fun.
So
I mean, for the most part, we know our customers, so we do have a good ballpark of what they're going to be. Like whenever I say that, like most of the jobs aren't going to take, you know, an extra day for the guys, but it might take them an extra 3 hours.
Right.
You know, like so it's not going to be, you know, they're not going to go from, you know, a half a day to 2 days. They're going to go from a half a day to a full day, half a day to 3/4 of a day, things like that. And that's where it gets complicated.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would just try my very best to figure out some sort of a form or automated system that sends out something to the customer prior, and I'd probably discount it or like give them an incentive. It's like, hey, if you fill this out before, it really helps us with scheduling. And furthermore, we want to make sure that when we come to your property and you want certain things done, we don't have to tell you, sorry, we can't get to it today. And so if you don't want that to happen,
Yeah, we have the time to get them done.
Exactly. And so like I'd imagine during your spring rush and stuff, there's times where you get to a property and they want you the extra half day and you're like, sorry, we just do not have the time. Like it's Saturday evening, sorry. So what you could do is just say, hey, in order to make sure we actually get all the services you want required on your property, we need you to fill out the form. If you don't fill out the form, that's fine, but you might get pushed off simply because from a scheduling perspective, we don't know what to put on the schedule. Next caller is coming in from 979. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, what's going on, brother? You doing all right today?
I am. How are you doing?
Good. I was calling because I have a few questions that I wanted to ask you. One was, I'm in a unique situation. My dad, he was brought up in the business, so was I. For his entire life, he has owned and ran a retail landscaping yard. So we sell soil, rock, mulch. The only thing we pretty much don't sell is like sod. Excuse me. I used to own a landscaping business, and it helped because, hey, he owned a retail yard. I actually would do the installs with landscaping. Fast forward to now, I'm wanting to get back into it, and this is one of my questions to you. I'm not wanting to do the landscaping itself. I'm wanting to strictly do mowing, mulch installs, so slight landscaping, and trench trimming, things of that nature that are like that we can get them done fairly quick. My question to you, with where I'm located in Texas, it's a college town and the market is extremely saturated with mowers and landscapers. Would I be shooting myself in the foot having my father, who owns a retail yard, and the market already being saturated itself, just strictly doing mowing? Like, am I cutting myself short, or what do you feel?
So right now, basically, you're offering full service, and you're considering basically cutting out the hardscaping, landscaping stuff, and focusing just on mowing. Is that correct?
Well, sorry, I neglected to tell you. I was doing the landscaping probably 7-8 years ago. Stopped doing the landscaping, went into the oil field, got out of the oil field, and I started a demolition and junk removal company 5 years ago. Okay. And I currently run that now. I'm wanting to get back into, I guess, landscaping, but not landscaping itself, like installing flowers. I'm just wanting to do quick ticket items. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I don't think you're barking up the wrong tree, because in part, I've seen this happen before with landscape material yards. If any of the customers of your dad know that you are doing landscaping, they might stop coming to your dad's shop, in case he has contractors that are coming in. So we've seen that happen before. I would also say that because you currently have the other business, you can just slowly merge into the mowing side. Because yes, you will grow slower if you don't do project-based and one-time work. cash collected up front is much lower on recurring jobs compared to one-time projects. That's why everyone that does projects, it's a temptation always because you grow faster. You get more cash collected up front, you can make sense of higher customer acquisition costs, and you can scale faster. But if you're like, hey, I want the business to look like this, I'm not in a rush because I have this other business that can keep me busy, I would just simply be okay with a little bit of a longer burn, a little bit longer growth cycle, and know that it's going to grow slower.
Got you. My other question to you was, I'm in the position to where I can fully purchase any kind of mower that I would want to purchase. More or less, I have equipment already for what it is we currently do. So it would pretty much just be purchasing a couple of weed eaters, blowers, mowers, and other hand tools and stuff. My question to you is, I'm wanting to, this upcoming year in 25, I'm wanting to grow this business. Like, it's something that I'm wanting to do. I don't know if this is stupid or not, but I'm just wanting to grow it as quick as possible just to see if I can really get a business pretty much going from like 12 months from like year to date to $300,000, $400,000 or $500,000 company within a year. So my question to you is, where I'm at in Texas, we're residential and rural. There is a lot of 2 to 5 acre pieces of property here. There's also a lot of quarter of an acre pieces of properties here. There's also pasture shredding, things of that nature. What should I focus on to really get the best bang for my buck with purchasing a sit-on lawnmower, or just starting off smaller and getting a push lawnmower and then just getting a bunch of residential yards? Or should I go for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 acre lots? Or should I go for the 20, 30 acre pastures?
Yeah, like I think in this case, it's a matter of like what leads are coming in. So many people will buy the equipment prior to starting their business, and then they launch and realize that 80% of the leads are coming from a segment they didn't think of. So for example, they'll get the push mower, thinking, I'm going to go residential. That's what Mike does. And then what they find out is that 80% of their customers are calling from people that have 2, 3, 4 acres or 20 acre pastures. And so I always recommend like go in light with equipment, because you'll probably pivot within 12 to 24 months. If you're brand new to a market, you can do investigation unless you're very clear on what you want to do. In your case, I don't think you have a clear vision. Like, I want to be doing only these type of customers. In that case, you buy the equipment and you just are okay with the fact that a bunch of leads you might not get at the front, and then you're gonna have to adjust your marketing messaging and your positioning for your company. But if you don't know which ones you want to be able to service and you're kind of indifferent, I go in very equipment light. I see what leads come to me, and then I adjust. Next caller is coming in from 417. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike. I was calling because I am curious. I'm interested in getting P4P as well as landscape web design. And I was curious what the differentiation or benefit of the franchise in comparison to using just the web design and your
P4P software.
CRM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of using my public channel for talking about all my products. So let me just try to go through it smoothly. This is the bottom line. This is the bottom of the bottom line. The difference between Augusta and then just getting a la carte all the other services, there's one key factor, one key ingredient, and that is 2 words. It's what the value of joining the franchise is, and that is Augusta Nation. That is the community around the systems. You have 170 other people that are using the same systems, and the coaching. We have internal coaches, we have corporate coaches, and it's also a matter of, like, from a website perspective, we literally rank immediately on the first page of Google, because now we have so many locations. Like the domain authority of AugustaLongerService.com is so high because of the amount of traffic. So when you start a new location, you're basically there right away. So the growth of our like newly started locations this year is significantly higher than even last year. Like we have 23% year-over-year growth across the system, but it's significantly higher for first locations because they're ranking so fast on Google. So like, is this a function of, yes, you get like P4P software for free. You get a website for free. You get AugustaLights.com for free. Like, so technically, if you just added up $500 a month for Augusta Lights, $500 for the main Augusta Lawn Care Services.com site that you get, as well as P4P software, there's your $1,200. Okay, it's $199 for P4P and $499 for the websites. So like, from a financial perspective, I think it makes a lot of sense. It really comes down to, do you want to be part of a community? And do you believe in what we're trying to do? That's really the ethos I'd be looking through if I was considering Augusta Lawn Care, but it is 100% the people inside the community, and we guard that religiously. And we have let people go outside of Augusta Nation and let them go simply because of that. And out of the people that want to join Augusta, only about 1 out of 8 we get allow in. So that is why you join Augusta Lawn Care, in my opinion. Let's move on. Next caller's 806. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you, Mike?
Fantastic. What can I do for you?
Well, I was just calling. It's a pretty consistent thing. I'm from Texas as well, and we seem to have a lot of the Q4 collapse type stuff here, where we have 6 to 8 months, depending on whether where things go well, and then we get to the quarter 4, and it's like we're scrapping for Christmas lights, firewood sales. Just a few different things that we can try to make happen for the winter, but it seems like we just kind of hit that collapse. It's just a thing that I feel like is pretty consistent across the industry. Any tips for someone that doesn't get a lot of snow? We typically have some pretty harsh winters, but have some mild ones mixed in.
Totally. I'm going to drop callers because I have to make room in the queue. So I'm going to answer the question, but I do have to drop callers. We got to get through these. Some people have been waiting here for 30 minutes. Yes. So I could give you a long spiel, but here's the bottom line. I have created over the past 8 months a workshop around this, and I'm going to release it at Blue Collar Summit. All right. So please come if this is a problem for you. I can guarantee you by the end of the Friday workshop, it's an entire day of just the workshop. So in the past at conferences, we've done mostly keynotes. We're going to have keynotes on the Thursday evening with John Taffer, myself, and other business professionals and people that own businesses. And also on Saturday, every 30 minutes, can be like pounding through a bunch of really good topics, different industries, etc. On the Friday, 100% of the day is me, and we're going to be doing a workshop. And I need you to bring your printed profit and loss statement up from 2024, and we're going to dig deep. Like, you will leave that workshop with a plan for exactly what you just talked about, because it is the reason why home service businesses stink in terms of financials is because of Q4 collapse. And if you don't know what he's talking about, it's basically where all of a sudden leads dry up, revenue dries up, and you lose cash flow during the winter or off season. And for some people, their off season actually the summer, depending on what industry you serve. But regardless, I spent a lot of time and energy in this. I have almost 1,000 slides on the workshop. It comes with a workbook that by the end you'll have filled out. It's 27 pages long. And I genuinely believe you will come up with not just one option, but multiple options to fix Q4 collapse for your business. I guarantee it. Like, if you come to that workshop, come through all of the presentation and fill out the workbook and feel like, this is not worth it, I will refund you your ticket to Blue Collar Summit. Like, just literally take this, be like, hey, Mike, you said I'd refund it if I came to all of the workshop and I didn't feel like I solved my Q4 collapse. I can guarantee it. I put tons of time and energy into this, and it's something that I will, like, to actually fix what we're talking about will take me at Augusta to almost 2 more years to fully actually implement. But I'm going to give you the roadmap and the path so you can do it in your business and give you all of the steps to do it. It's going to be my best work by far because I've put so much time into it, and I genuinely believe it's actually the main problem with our industries. It's not marketing, it's not hiring, it's not all these other things, which are important, but if you actually fix the crux of the matter, which is you have a collapse of revenue, you have a collapse of leads, you go negative cash flow for some period of the year. I believe this is a solvable problem, and I'll give you 5 different ways to fix it, and then you're going to judge which of the 5 is going to work best for your market. So please come to Blue Collar Summit. I know this is a direct pitch, but like, I believe in this to my core. We're going to do a lot of testing with each other. So you're actually like use the scripts on each other. You're gonna have to write out what your offers are going to be for certain things. You're gonna have to pitch to existing customers. You're gonna have to pitch to new customers. You're gonna have to create ad scripts for this. I just genuinely believe this will be my best work. And I genuinely believe this is the biggest problem with our industry. So please come to Blue Collar Summit. I think it'll be super worth it. Next caller is from 416. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
I appreciate it, Mike. I appreciate you taking my call. My name is Daniel. I wanted to call you and ask you, I just wanted to know roughly what's the business. We've got annual revenue of just a little bit more than $1 million. And what's a healthy amount for us to be spending on marketing?
Yeah, it depends on what your growth rate is. Like, so last year, if you did $1 million this year, what did you do last year in revenue?
I think around 850.
Okay, so you grew about 20%. From 850 to 1 million. Are you trying to continue growing, Daniel, or are you trying to make it more profitable in the future?
No, I'm trying to just keep on growing. Our goal is to grow to, let's say, around 3 million.
Okay. And so right now, from a cash perspective, is things tight? Like, do you have a month's worth of revenue in the bank account, like 100 grand, or is it really tight?
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, we do have that.
Okay, good. So you can still keep growing. And so your constraint right now is what? Like, is like marketing is obviously getting more leads. How much did you spend last year on marketing, or this year?
Okay, well, constraint with leads is we haven't spent a whole lot on marketing. Like, I think we spent on just the Google ads, the PPC. I think like $1,000 a month.
Okay.
And then everything else is just reoccurring customers. Because like we're a contracting business. Like we do excavation and foundations.
Okay.
And it's just previous customers that always, the next year they always have like a project. And it's just a question of just growing, finding more, builders and getting our name out there. So I was just wondering, how much should we spend to get our name out there so people actually know who we are?
Yeah, like if you're doing like working with other contractors, it is a matter of you might actually get an inside sales rep. Like you might get someone that literally their job, it might be your job, to literally just go and talk to these people. Like these contractors can bring in huge amounts of revenue, and it's much more of a business-to-business transaction. So running Facebook ads to find 10 contractors in your local market could get expensive. But you going out and talking to them, having out for dinner.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, so the previous years, I was more of like operation-wise and doing the work. I still am. I'm still doing that. But this year, I'm more focusing on exactly like what you said. So I was just wondering, what should I be spending? Like, what should be my a healthy percentage of sales, like for the whole year of revenue? Say, okay, this is how much, I should be spending.
I think your wages, like your overhead wages, is actually your marketing expense. Because if you have an in-person sale, like if you have a direct salesperson or an inside salesperson like yourself, your cost of wages is actually the cost of marketing. Because I think when you're doing B2B and you're going to contractors like you are, your wages is the marketing expense. You go out and spending that time with these contractors. It's not necessarily that you're running Facebook ads or Google ads. Like you could run Google ads, but a bunch of that traffic is going to be homeowners that you don't even want to deal with. And so when you're going B2B, business to business, and you're not going to consumer, many times spending on generalized platforms like Google or Facebook ends up becoming a waste of money or very, very highly expensive. And so you've obviously shown you can grow. I think you spending all of your time on sales is going to be the unlock for growth. Because right now, if you're still doing operations, get someone to take care of operations so you become the salesperson. And you're like, well, how much am I spending on marketing? Your wages. That is the real cost. Next caller is coming from 985. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike, I called in earlier. This is Cody with Trinity Tree. Once again, I want to tell you thank you for helping me turn my business around in April. We're at $500,000 for the year and profitable now.
Let's
but
go.
The bottlenecks I'm having is still trying to figure out or differentiate my different roles in the business as sales, production, and kind of had to just turn off leads because I got overwhelmed. What schedule would you recommend to best do production a certain amount of days and then focus on sales? Because I haven't been able to hire arborists to replace me yet.
Yeah, so ultimately you're at capacity for your current setup, right? Like you can't really grow the business anymore without having either someone to handle sales, operations, or admin. Like you just need something taken off your plate. Now, assuming you don't do that, I would probably say if you can't get to leads, we raise prices significantly. That way you could, let's just say, do 600,000 or 650 next year, but still be juggling all the balls of the business and at least be making even more profit. Now, you then take that extra $100,000 in profit caused by those price increases and go get someone that's actually really good at being an arborist, and you pay them a bunch. Like now you can actually afford it because of the price increase. But the reason I say we have a price increase is because you're not getting to the leads that are coming in.
Yeah. And that's where I find myself. It's just like, this is hectic. And then turn leads off because I don't want to waste money on leads, but then I'm not getting new customers.
Right. Yeah, so I would be really thinking about, first off, do I have a digital strategy that the leads keep coming in even when I don't have marketing ads running? Like when I'm not running Facebook ads and Google ads, if that turns off all of your leads, you are on the drip. Like you are addicted. So like that's when it's like, do we have good SEO? Do we have a good website design? Are we ranking well on Google? Because that will bring in the leads without you having to keep spending money on every single lead that's coming in. That's a huge bottleneck to growth. If you're relying on every single lead, you have to pay for it. $100 here, $150 here, $100 here. It's very difficult to scale. If you can build a website that does well and you pay $500 a month, like a home service web design or lawn care web design, or you build it for a one-time $5,000-10,000 or whatever, you pay for it, and then you can get 100 leads tomorrow and you pay the same amount. That's the goal. That scales. And so I'd be first focused on how do I do that, so that way the leads are coming in. I'm not thinking I need to constantly be spending money on Facebook or Google ads to bring in those leads. And then I'd raise prices if I can't get to customers. I just raise prices. And by raising prices, I then create the profit required to then go get a salesperson, go get an operations manager that can have an arborist, a certification, or an office person that can take things off of my plate and unlock you to do the sales and go out and sell more jobs. Next caller is coming from 404. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. 404.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Oh, great. My name is Fred.
Awesome.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. My question was, how do you bounce back for like a bad season prior?
Yeah, give me a little context. So I'm assuming this last year was pretty rough.
Yes, it was pretty rough. So I pretty much lost all my customers, but like almost like 20. And I'm charging roughly like $80 an hour, and I'm trying to go up on my price, but I'm getting a lot of kickback with me going up recently. So I was wondering, moving forward in 2025, should I keep going up on the price or spend more on marketing? Or how can I reattain the customers?
Yeah, like if you drop the ball to customers, it's very difficult to raise prices. And the reason for that is because they're already questioning whether or not they should be with you. So if you're like, okay, yes, I know you've been questioning whether or not you should leave me. Now I'm going to increase prices by 20%. You're going to get kickback. You're also going to get people leaving. You're going to increase churn. And so my recommendation is fix that first, like fix that bottleneck of customers complaining and focus all your energy and time on that. And then once people are satisfied, then you have the permission to go ahead and raise prices. In terms of bouncing back from a bad year, it's a matter of, okay, why did they leave? Fix that. Like, why did the customer leave is the number one reason question I need answered, because whatever that is, I need to plug that hole, whether it be bad customer service, whether that be, you got way behind on scheduling and they left anyways, whatever that was that caused them to leave is the number one bottleneck. Fix that. And if you do that, you'll then start having a recurring base of customers that continue to grow. And then when it gets to a certain size and leads are still coming in, you'll hit capacity and you will raise prices. Next caller is coming in from 514. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Yes, my name is Pierre, calling from Montreal.
Hey, how's it going?
I have a window business. Yeah, great. And you?
Cool. Window company in Montreal. What's up?
Yes, I make around 1 million in revenues and 20% on bottom line.
Okay.
And I just want to know, how do I implement my P4P at my command center?
Cool. For the command center or for your reps out in the field doing window cleaning?
Command centers. So my sellers. So the guy who sells do estimate, because 99% of my closing rate is by phone, per phone.
Got it.
So we didn't move.
Got it. And so these people answering the phone, doing the sales, are they also doing customer service or primarily just sales?
Primarily just sales.
Got it. So I wouldn't look at these people as command center. I look at these as sales reps. And I would approach it from a sales commission perspective, because if you're thinking about command center, usually that is they're doing customer support, they're doing billing, they're doing a whole bunch of other stuff. This is much more of a sales position. If most of their calls are sales, I would be incentivizing close ratio. I'd be incentivizing upsells. I'd be incentivizing the gross ticket size. The thing is, though, when a lead comes in to a call rep, for example, they don't really control the ticket size. Because it's out of their control whether or not the customer calls in for a $5,000 window cleaning or a $500 window cleaning. But what you can incentivize is the things they can control, which they can control. Can they upsell the customer? What percentage of them accept the estimate? Those are the type of things I'd be incentivizing. I wouldn't really do a P for P or pay for performance model as much as an incentive structure that incentivizes the things that they can control. Does that make sense?
Yeah, could we do it pay for profit? So P for P? So like my budget hours is 1 hour and my target is 125.
Yeah, you could say hey,
so if they sell,
anything over a certain amount of budget hours or even over a certain amount of revenue, they get a different kickback. So for example, it's hey, from zero, let's just make up a number, $0 to $200, you don't make anything. From $200 to $500, you get a percentage. From $500 up, you get a higher percentage. That way they're incentivized to go up higher and increase the average ticket. But that'd just be a matter of knowing your business and what can they control. The bottom line with P for P is the employee can control whether or not they run, they can control whether or not they move quickly, they control whether or not they stop at every gas station. Therefore, I incentivize that behavior. And so when it comes to someone doing sales, I need to figure out what can they control. And if they can control upsells, great. They can't control how many leads come in. They can't control whether or not people want service. They can control their close ratio and things to what your point is, get them above a certain threshold of revenue.
Yeah. And if we have commitment with the customers, 2 years, 3 years, or just 12 months, and the customer just break down the contract, on what period do I pay the commission? Because maybe it's 12-month contract or 36-month contract. Do I upfront pay the commission, or I just pay lifetime until the customer leave or the employee just quit?
Yeah, the lifetime one is difficult.
I just want to know,
the lifetime is difficult because it becomes a tracking game, tracking how long every single customer stays, whether or not the rep stays. Then you have this weird thing that if they start growing their residuals, then they don't want to become a manager. They don't want to move up in the company. So I think residuals could get a little complicated. I think I would do it based on a percentage of the annual contract value. And then, yes, you're taking the risk that the customer cancels on you, but also I would probably have a penalty clause inside my agreement that would cover the cost of my sales commission. So if you're giving them, say, 5%, and someone cancels on a contract for annual, I'd be hey, you have a 5% fee.
I pay upfront, or I just
I would personally do it up front and just do a percentage of the revenue for the annual year. Mostly because it's going to be difficult from a tracking perspective and knowing what the revenues are for every customer, what happens if they do an upsell halfway through the year, what happens if they cut services throughout, all that. I would just be hey, if you make a sale and you sign a 1-year contract for $3,000, I'm giving you, let's just call it 5%. That's a $150 bonus. Great, fantastic. Now I'm also in that contract going to have that if the customer cancels before the end of the year, there is a $150 fee. Right? I'd be doing some sort of percentage likely to cover the cost of my sales commission in the event that the customer, I don't ever realize that revenue.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Thank you for your time, Mike.
You got it, brother. Cool. Yeah? You have a good one. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Next caller is coming in from 806. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, calling back again. I was kind of trying to get into we've done the mowing and stuff in the past, and we've been trying to pick up the 12-month contracts to kind of keep the residual for the winter going through. getting somebody to kind of manage or oversee mowing, I feel like that's got to be a fairly high-paying job, and to quantify that anywhere from $22 to $28 an hour. But to get that kind of salary, that kind of money being paid out, it seems hard to be able to do that with mowing when you've got guys out there doing yards for 20, 30, $40. Mm-hmm. How's a good way to combat that? And because that's a lot of energy, a lot of time. Those guys taking care of those yards, gates get broken, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
How's a good way to kind of combat some of that?
Yeah. How many mowing customers do you have now?
We've only got like 10. At one point we had like 45. So we're trying to build that back up because we do mostly sprinkler repairs because we're in a pretty dry part of Texas. And so that's our main revenue source, but it's not residual. So we, have plenty of guys that go out and do repairs. We're able to charge over $100 an hour for those types of repairs. So it's hard to take somebody off the repair truck to go do the mowing because there's such a difference in, I tell somebody to charge them $100 an hour to mow the yard. I just don't think it's ever going to work. But we've got about 10 now. We were up at 45 a few years ago before I started seeing more come in from the hourly rate of the sprinkler repairs.
Yeah. So like, why are you getting the mowing? Why not just focus on the sprinkler stuff?
Just the fact that we've got 2 or 3 months, it's just like we don't really have any work, and I don't really know what to do with my guys for 2 or 3 months, and it's I hate to let a guy go and then hey, hope I can pick him up back the next season or whatever, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's kind of where my biggest issue.
So my question is like, do you need a manager for the mowing, or can you just simply pivot from one service to the other for those 3 to 4 months? I see what you're saying. You don't want to move your crew over because the crew that you currently have is extremely expensive, and moving them onto mowing isn't going to make any sense. Is that right?
Right. Yes. I've got a high ticket item, and I would be pulling them off to go low ticket or bring another crew to do the mowing. Like that's kind of the question. Like, would I bring in a whole other crew, or is there something else? I don't know. I guess I'm trying to find out how to keep the guys I've got when we slow down, but also. Is there something else? Because we don't have a lot of recurring customers. We've got some recurring customers, but that, just every month billing them kind of thing is not something we do a lot of, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So like, I don't think mowing is actually the fix for this because you're using different employees. Like unless you're going to be willing to lose money, pay your guys more on the mowing side and go very, very like premium pricing, it sounds like, in your market for mowing. I think the move here is going to be a different service, mostly due to the fact that I'm glad the mowing would fill in the gap. The problem is the mowing, although it has a different demand curve, requires different employees. And this is this going back to the same thing that I have against like the poop scooping thing is most of the time my mowing crew would not want to go pick up poop. They just don't. And so if I'm having to tap into a different employee market, it defeats the reason as to why I want to solve Q4 collapse. So this is a big topic we're covering also at Blue Collar Summit. Get your tickets today, get this jersey, let's go. So that would be like, it's a big reason why we're doing the workshop is because like there are reasons to why you should or should not, and there's like ways to rank what services you should offer and which ones have like pros and cons. So there's pros and cons to every single one. Like for example, we added Christmas lights for Augusta Lawn Care. The problem is it only gives you about 60 to 70 days of busyness, right? So there's still a little bit in January before our spring rush starts in terms of slow season. But it has a complete opposite demand curve, and I can use my same crew. And so these are the type of things you're kind of weighing out the pros and cons and what we'll be doing at Blue Collar Summit in the workshop. But I personally think for you, when it comes to sprinkler repair, putting that same crew member on a lawn mowing truck, A, they might not even want to do it. B, if you have to pay them so much, it doesn't even make it worth it. You might actually go into shutdown mode. Like you might close down for 3 months or like dramatically cut everyone's hours or like lay off half the team. That actually might be the move, especially because 3 months isn't so long. If it was 4 or 5, you start having to figure out like what is the gap here. But again, we'll be talking about that as one of the options at Blue Collar Summit. Next caller is 316. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, sir. I called you earlier, and I wanted to make a few points as far as growing a profitable business. I'm having a hard time trying to figure out what salary to pay myself as far as on a monthly basis, while also trying to keep cash revenue for the business in the bank so it can grow at a steady pace.
Yeah, like ultimately we need to keep enough cash in the bank in terms of working capital for the business to stay alive. We also want to invest into the business in order to be able to make it grow. The slippery slope for most people is the fact that they invest back into the business, and in reality, the business is just unprofitable. And they fall into the guise of, like, if you're not growing significantly and you're not profitable, the business model is flawed. Like, it's unprofitable. The only way I would ever give someone kind of a green light on being less profitable in the business is that they're growing extremely fast, and growth sucks the cash out. And so, how much you should be paying yourself is how little are you willing to live on so the business can continue to grow. And so from a actually salary perspective, like if you're actually filing your taxes and you're taking a W-2, I want that number to be as low as possible also because I pay more taxes when I take W-2 income instead of distributions. Again, talk to an accountant, but that's why you would want to be an S-Corp instead of an LLC, because in an LLC, you're going to pay 15% self-employment tax on all of that bottom line income. And so from a W-2 perspective, I want that number as low as possible. And yes, people will say you have like a regular salary and all the rest of it. The IRS has not come after business owners for taking too low of a W-2 income from their S-Corp. They just haven't. Show me the case where that's the case. Accountants will be conservative. They will tell you to take a regular salary and what your replacement value is, et cetera. But I would go low, all right? Not financial advice. So in terms of actual salary, I'd be reducing as much as possible. In terms of how much do I keep in the business, I want to have at least a month's worth of revenue in the business bank account, and that's the average of the past 3 months. So I did $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in the last 3 months. $50,000 would be the average of the last 3 months of revenue. I'd be trying to keep that as working capital in the bank account. And that's ultra conservative. You can go lower, but you just know you're increasing your risk. And that's just me personally. And I use revenue instead of expenses because most people know their revenue. Most people do not know their expenses. Next caller is from 404. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Quick question. To go from 0 to 100 customers within 12 weeks or during the spring rush, how much should I be focused on spending on marketing?
It's not so much a matter of how much do we need to spend on marketing, it's how many leads do we need to get that number of customers. And so if we need 100 customers, the next question is, well, how many leads do I need? That's going to be determined based upon our close ratio. So if you're closing 50% of your estimates that you send out, that would mean that I need 200 leads. And then it's a matter of, well, do I know my customer acquisition cost? How much do I have to get, cost per lead. Do I know my cost per lead? How much do I have to spend to get one lead? Because I want 100 customers, and if I have a 50% close ratio, that means I need 200 leads. And so if I know that I also am paying $100 per lead, then I need 200 leads multiplied by $100 per lead. That's $20,000 I need to spend to hit that target. So you can always run the math backwards, assuming you know two things: your cost per lead and your customer acquisition cost. Because you go customers, leads, and then how much I have to spend per lead. Sorry, it's been 3.5 hours. Okay, we're going to take one last caller, and then we're going to call it a day. This one's coming from Australia, it looks like. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, Mike. How you doing, mate?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm calling in from Australia. I've heard you've had a few locations there.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. I've got a quick question for you. So I'm looking at implementing P4P here in Australia, and it's a little bit of a different market in terms of paying employees. So the minimum wage here is $30 per hour. And I'm just trying to work out if I had to go by your 25% rule, that would mean I would have to pay, I would have to charge customers by $120 an hour. Would that be right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so we currently charge $85 an hour. Would that mean I should wait until all our customers are at $120 an hour, then implement P4P, or should I make the change now and tell the employees it will be updated shortly? Because they won't get any performance dollars. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, so the 25% rule is mostly effective if you're trying to use 33% of labor revenue, or a third. You could just offer 40% and immediately get them above base pay. And then what I would recommend is raise your prices as you bring that number down. So for example, if you say, hey, we're going to offer 40%, now they can actually make above base pay. That's what you want. And then as time goes on, you raise prices from 85 to 95 to 105, et cetera. I would bring that down to 38, 36, 34% and make sense of that way. I know there are people over there that pay $150 per hour. Although your base pay and your minimum wage is much higher, you also can charge a lot more. And so it's just a matter of, from a P4P perspective, you can make sense of it. You just need to make sure that the crew is incentivized to get above base pay. And to do that, you'd probably have to offer a higher percentage at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah. And just quickly, so we also have a landscape construction division, and I don't know if I should implement P4P just for our mowing crew, or do you recommend also doing it for the construction crew? Because all their wages are different. I mean, the foreman is on $40 an hour, the landscaper is on $35, and the apprentice is on $20. So I just don't know how I can go company broad 40%, like how that would look like, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so what you can do inside the software is just have different tiers, right? So you could have foreman, you have crew leader, you could have apprentice, and they just have different base pays and different percentages. I would just make sure it's tiered and not just based on each individual person, because it gets really messy and people start to think that you're, gaming the system. So I always recommend to have, if you're going to have different tiers of compensation for P4P, you have a certain percentage and base pay for each individual tier, and then people can move up tiers, they can gain more experience, they get more certifications, but tie that to something, not just title even, just like, okay, in order for me to go up this next tier, I need this certification, I need this number of years experience, I can't be an apprentice, whatever it might be. And then you can make this work no problem, because the way the software works is it cuts out the amount of wages and then splits it up accordingly between the team members. So that's why you can do different base pays, you can do different percentages. And as a whole, I don't recommend doing that so that you can do open book management and everyone feels very equitable. But if you're going to have to, because you have very, very dispersed levels of skill, that's when you want to make sure it's very clear in terms of tiers and they know what to do to get between the tiers to be able to unlock higher percentages and higher base pays on P4P. All right, I'm going to drop everyone in the call queue. I apologize. We simply do not have the time. It's been 3.5 hours. We absolutely crushed it. Now, in case you just recently showed up, I did have 3 gifts I wanted to share everyone. All right, so we got 3 gifts. We got number 1 over here. We got the second gift over here. In the spirit of Christmas and the holiday cheer, we have also a 3rd gift that I would like to give. So for those of you who already missed it, let's go through. First off, Landscape Business Course is free. How do you get that? landscapebusinesscourse.com. You get free access forever. There are templates. There are downloads. There's over 50 hours of training and education over the past 8 years. Everything I've learned locked up inside that course, 100% free. The next thing is, you can't see it. There it is. Unpackaged the box. Free Blue Collar Summit jersey, baby. Let's go. 2025. It's coming up in just a few more weeks. And if you sign up today, you'll get the jersey. We can't, last minute, we won't be able to get people's jerseys. So if you're going to sign up, do it today. Get in the hotel before they fill up completely. I know there's just a few spots left. So you will get one of these custom jerseys. These are really nice. These are actually patches. These are not screen printed. These are actual patches. They're very high quality, very nice jerseys. This is an extra large. I'm a small, so that's why it looks a little funky. So that's the second gift. The third gift is the software demo from Copilot. All right. And this is what it looks like now inside of the customer portal. It's going to be in the next several weeks. This is what it used to look like right here. This is what it currently looks like inside Copilot. We've made some big upgrades, and it's going to be rolling out throughout January and February. There's a bunch of other upgrades that are coming, but essentially a much more streamlined checkout process in terms of payment options around Cash App, Google Pay, Apple Pay, etc., as well as what I really like the most is when someone tries to decline, they have to give you a reason why. This allows you to be able to know exactly why they did not accept the estimate, and therefore be able to potentially save that customer and close that job. I appreciate you all tremendously. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas. We have some really cool stuff coming out next week. So circle the calendar for January the 1st. I got more gifts to give, baby. But I appreciate you all being here tremendously for this marathon of 3.5 hours of live stream. I appreciate all of your support tremendously in 2024. And the reason we're able to make Landscape Business Course free is because of the support for everything that we're doing, whether it be Augusta, whether it be Copilot CRM, lawn care web design, and home service web design. It's that really what allows us to be able to keep the media team going. And so that's why we're letting go of Landscape Business Course and making sure it's free to everyone. Please pass it along. Give it to someone who's struggling in their business, getting started in lawn care or landscaping. And I hope that my gift to you is helpful. So while you're watching it on Teachable, it has a really cool module. Take a picture. Tag me on Instagram. I'd love to be able to share it with everyone and hopefully give as many people the resources they need. And by doing that, increase the level of professionalism in the landscape industry. If you have not already, bluecollarsummit.com, book your tickets. Bring your spouse, bring your manager. I can guarantee you this will be the best conference you have ever been to. The workshop, I've spent so much time on this. It's going to be my best work. And I genuinely believe it'll change people's businesses once and for all. And so if you struggle with an off season, if you struggle with having Q4 collapse, if you struggle with having 3-4 months where you have negative cash flow, this will solve this. I can guarantee it. There's going to be 5 different ways that we're going to create routes for your business. And we're going to ensure that Q4 collapse and your off seasons are solved. I love you all tremendously. I appreciate everything you've done for me, my family, for my employees, for my businesses. Everything I've built is because of the community and the success that I had. I can only have dreamt of 10 years ago when I started Augusta Lawn Care and 18 years ago when I started mowing grass. I appreciate it tremendously, and I look forward to a great 2025 in the future. I'll see you all at Blue Collar Summit, and until then, keep killing it. Let's go. Have a great rest of your week.